Dave Brown right along ringside. By golly, we're about ready to go with more big action.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Georgia Championship Wrestling. I'm Gordon Solie, your host, and we have quite an hour in store for us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Championship Wrestling at ringside. This is Vince McMahon, along with wrestling's only living legend, Bruno Sammartino.
Welcome to this week's edition of Mid-South Wrestling Television. I'm your host, Boyd Pierce, another outstanding card.
Hey, guys, and welcome back to the Regional Rasslin Podcast, where we talk the territories. And this week on the show, episode 51. We're over that hump, over that milestone, and we're heading to our next 50 episodes, hopefully. And this week, we're back to the territory of Georgia, Championship Wrestling circa 1981. And in order to do the show, we got to bring him back, our special guest co-host for everything Georgia here on Regional Rasslin. Welcome back, Mr. Jammie Ward.
All right, it's great to be back, but I don't know if I could do the show after you and I demolished those 18-ounce ribeyes in Florida.
Oh, and don't forget, Shannon left 9 ounces for me later, too, so yeah.
Oh, yes, she did. And, hey, I was proud. Shannon polished that off pretty well. I was proud of her.
Yeah, well, she's usually like an 8-ounce tops, you know, for a steak girl. She never really finishes the rest. She'll bring it back for my son Connor. Usually we'll polish it off, but there was no Connor, so unfortunately I had to do the job.
You had to do what you had to do, Ray. I admire that in a man.
Absolutely. Taking charge. Good stuff there down there at the Glory Days GrappleCon weekend. Now, hopefully we'll do it again. Another steak, maybe some Philly cheesesteaks next time, Jamie.
Hey, you come to Philly, they're on me, babe.
Oh, my God, the pictures you post. I can't wait to find some of those, man. I love cheesesteaks. You just can't find them like that here. So, yeah, looking forward to that sometime down the road. But everybody out there, they're here for something completely different than cheesesteak. Well, maybe they want a cheesesteak. Maybe they can order one.
They're here for
delivered while
Georgia
they're listening.
peaches.
They could get some those pretty Georgia peaches. Somebody say something about Georgia 81, Jamie, as we continue on the month of August here in 1981. And last time out, we finished up, looked at some more TV. We talked about some Omni and whatnot. We got another Omni card on the horizon here. Hopefully we have time to get to that. And we're going to kick it all off this week with a week of house shows heading into the next TV. And the very first day, August 15th, I believe this is actually after the last Saturday episode of TV. It's a pair of shows. And they're very similar cards, similar results here on August 15th in Madisonville, Tennessee at the Monroe County High School. Also August 15th in Chattanooga at the Memorial Auditorium. Now in Madisonville, it was Ric Ferrera over Mike Davis, Bill White taking on El Toro. You remember El Toro, the guy that took Bruno to a 60-minute draw in Madison Square Garden. I don't have the results for that, but I sure hope El Toro went over. But with him being there for one day, who knows?
Well, I'd be rooting for Philadelphia's own Bill White in that match.
That's true. Yeah, you are the Philadelphia man. We don't have Plowboy Frazier here anymore in Georgia, so you got to go with Bill White here.
Well, he's not from that Philadelphia, though.
Not that Philadelphia. That's right. Also on the card, it's Bruce Reed and Bruno Jr. taking on David Sierra and French Angel. I wonder why Bruno Jr. didn't attack El Toro on TV to get revenge for the guy, making his father, go to the draw, go to the distance. I'll teach you. But no, we never get that feud here in Georgia, unfortunately. But we do get Steve-O defeating Masked Superstar on a DQ here in Madisonville. And Steve-O will retain the national title, at least for today.
Told you, Steve-O's the man.
Well, we'll see how long that lasts. As we close out the card here, it's Tennessee Street Fight. Terry Gordy over Ted DiBiase, and we'll talk a little bit more about why that's going on in just a moment, because I want to fast forward to Chattanooga the same day. They drive on over. It's Ric Ferrera again over Mike Davis, the French Angel, and David Sierra. Look at this, over the team of Bruno Jr. and Bruce Reed. You have to figure Bruce probably did the job there, but what an odd choice in who to put over in this match.
Maybe it's a misprint. Because it doesn't seem like the proper result for me to have happened. But, hey, it is a house show. You never know. And the Angel is from that Chattanooga area, I understand.
True that. I also see Bruno Jr. working twice here as they got him going over on Bill White also, so who knows. Plus, it's Steve-O once again over the Masked Superstar on a DQ, and once again, the street fight closing out the show. Terry Gordy over Ted DiBiase. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we continue on this week. And now we go off to Carrollton, Georgia in the Fairgrounds, also August 15th. Another troop of talent sees Ken Timms over Snake Brown, George Wells teaming with Ted Oates over Brian St. John and Professor Sonoda. It's Kevin Von Erich over Iron Mike Sharp, and Wildfire Tommy Rich downing Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Now, I know Tommy Rich is the hometown, homegrown boy here as far as, well, second home here in Atlanta, but I find it hard to buy Tommy Rich defeating this badass Jimmy Snuka.
Yeah, but it is, you just said it. It's Tommy Rich's home ground. But we don't know how this probably ended. I'm thinking probably a DQ, and it's just missing there. But the intriguing result here is nice to see Kevin Von Erich on a house show. Yeah,
Kevin's actually making the rounds.
He's been strictly on TV up till now.
Well, I'm assuming he's flying in and out. I'm sure Kevin's not making the drive from Dallas, Denton County, all the way over to Atlanta every week for television. But yeah, it is good to see Kevin actually working the house shows as they haven't factored in. There's a little bit more plans in the works here for Kevin right now. We'll have to see if that plays out the way they wanted it to. We're also going to look at Marietta, Georgia on August 16th at the Cobb County Civic Center. It's George Wells going to a draw with Brian St. John, Steve-O over the French Angel, Kevin Von Erich defeating Professor Sonoda, Wrestling 2 back in the territory, let's not forget. 2 teaming with Tommy Rich here, the new TNT, scoring a win over the Masked Superstar and the Superfly Jimmy Snuka. And then a Texas death match going to headline the show, Terry Gordy over Ted DiBiase after 5 falls. That had to be a fun one.
Boy, those guys had a busy 2 days, didn't they, Gordy and DiBiase?
Yeah, they were making the rounds.
And 5 falls, that's great.
Yeah, and you think about, doing the 86 UWF with Roman and the Freebirds feuding with Doc and DiBiase right now. And it goes all the way back here, and really before this too, but Gordy and DiBiase headlining shows here all the way back in 81. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, and they've been going at it since what? Or late November 1980.
Yeah, it's got to be back somewhere in 1980 for sure, yeah. Well, even back to the Mid-South, DiBiase there when the Freebirds roamed the earth.
That's very true.
August 16th, again, we see Anniston, Alabama at the City Auditorium. Now, I don't have results. I don't even really have the card, but I do know the main event, a fun one here. Jimmy Snuka and Terry Gordy, the Georgia Tag Team Champions, taking on Tommy Rich and Ted DiBiase. And if you do the math, you figure likely, DiBiase did the job in that one.
Most likely. I mean, we're about to get to it, but the sun is about to set on Teddy.
And speaking, we talked so much about Ted DiBiase. He's been here since we started this thing. Even when we set the stage, DiBiase had arrived, as you said, in the fall of 1980. And he's been here with us for the last 8, 9, 10 months. And now we say goodbye to Ted DiBiase. Everybody wondering, why is DiBiase all of a sudden doing all of these jobs? Because, he hasn't lost a whole lot here in the last near year with the company. But that's for good reason that this is happening here this week. And we'll get to that at the end of the show here in Augusta at the Bell Auditorium, August 17th. It's Bruno Sammartino Jr. over Ric Ferrera, George Wells defeating Professor Sonoda. Interesting team here. Kevin Von Erich and Grumpy Wrestling 2 teaming up, scoring a win over Iron Mike Sharp and Brian St. John. What do you think of that tag team?
I like the tag team. I mean, it's 2 polar opposites. And
get that right.
Something tells me we're going to see them team up maybe 3 more times.
I think you might be right.
Real quick. And it's real interesting watching them as a team.
It is indeed. Also on the card in Augusta, it was the national heavyweight champion Steve-O over the Masked Superstar. I don't have this as a result, but I wrote by DQ because I just don't see Steve-O defeating Superstar 1, 2, 3. Also, Wildfire Tommy Rich again over Superfly Jimmy Snuka. And in the main event, a lights-out Texas death match. Going to see the former Freebird Terry Gordy once again defeat Ted DiBiase, and this match, Jamie, will mark DiBiase's final night in the Georgia territory.
Let me shed a tear.
What could have been.
Yeah, I'm not going to get to see DiBiase on TBS again for almost 2 years.
Yeah, it's going to be a couple
he'll
years.
Return.
That's right. Absolutely. It's unfortunate, but DiBiase doing the right thing, doing some jobs on the way out, high-profile jobs to Terry Gordy, who's actually a tag team champion, so I'm a little surprised that they went with Gordy here, but I love that they put him over Ted DiBiase on the house shows all week long, and now DiBiase gone back to the Mid-South territory where he's going to go form a team and then split up with Bob Roop. And we were just talking about that on the Roop show this week, so that we'll continue to talk about their feud in the Mid-South territory. So even though he comes to an end here, he actually picks back up over on the Wrestling Stoop with Bob Roop, if anybody's interested in continuing to follow the story of Ted DiBiase's career in 1981. But yeah, it's just a fun little match. These Texas death matches, what a way to go. I hope Gordy wasn't too rough on DiBiase on the way out.
I'm sure after 10 months of working together almost every night until recently, I'll bet those guys became good friends.
Yeah, and the interviews DiBiase's done, the shoot interviews, if you will, he talks about when he came in. We've talked about it at length. He was being groomed to become a potential future NWA World Heavyweight Champion. But as soon as he comes in, they change bookers over to Robert Fuller, and he had other ideas. He tried to main event himself, Fuller did, with Plowboy. When that didn't get over, he took Ted DiBiase and made him his partner instead. And then you know what happened from there. Obviously, they switched bookers a few times. DiBiase got the pushback, but in came the dog. Back came Tommy Rich, and DiBiase, I don't want to say he fell down the ladder, but maybe he got a little lost in the main event shuffle. Exactly.
Perfect description of what happened to DiBiase. I mean, they did try to make it up to him. They gave him a title shot against Dusty Rhodes, but then they never followed us up and let us know how that match ended on television.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see DiBiase stick around, maybe do a heel turn there on Big Dust, but just not in the cards right now. We'll have to wait another year for DiBiase to turn heel on the JYD over there in the Mid-South territory. But right now we continue on. Georgia, August 18th, Macon and the Coliseum. It's Bruno Jr. drawing with David Sammartino, Kevin Von Erich over Brian St. John, Steve-O defeating Professor Sonoda. It's the Masked Superstar over Bruce Reed, and the Georgia Tag Team Champions, Gordy and Snuka, double DQ. Wow, is this the first time ever? Michael Hayes teaming with Wildfire Tommy Rich.
I'll bet that was a lot of fun.
I'm sure the crowd really got into that, having some fun there. Hayes teaming with a lot of his former enemies as of late, and that's going to continue to be a thing as we continue on August 19th, Columbus, Georgia, Municipal Auditorium. This is a fun night, and you'll see why in just a moment, guys. On the undercard, it's Mike Sharp and David Sierra over George Wells and Bruce Reed, Bruno Sammartino Jr. defeating Rick Ferrera, Kevin Von Erich over Brian St. John, and then it happens. The Masked Superstar defeats Steve-O to capture the NWA National Heavyweight Championship. Steve-O, no longer the National Heavyweight Champion, but he is still a junior champion. And then I wonder, how can you be a junior and a heavyweight champion at the same time?
Only Steve-O could ever pull that off. That's why he was a tri-champion at one point.
Once upon a time.
Down to the junior championship, which is on his fireplace. The mantle at the fireplace, because they don't want it on television anymore. They really discriminated against poor Steve-O, especially by taking the belt away from him here.
Well, we'll see if he can, make a comeback from this title loss. But we do have, at the end of the day, a new national champion. What a man. The Masked Superstar, the Superstar, now holding that national heavyweight belt as we go on to the main event of the night here in Columbus. It's the tag team champions, Snuka and Gordy, going to, I've seen double countout, also double DQ. Either way, it's a schmoz, to quote the Hitman. It's Gordy and Snuka going to a double something or other with Michael Hayes and Wrestling 2. Another odd pair.
I would have loved to see Wrestling 2 in the ring with Snuka.
Oh, man, that would have been interesting, wouldn't it?
Oh, he wouldn't have tolerated anything. And 2 would have got pissed at Snuka, and Snuka would have got pissed at 2. That could have gone off the rails real easy.
That sounds fun. I kind of want to go back and see this myself. I wish we could have just made the loop back and just drive around and see some of these matches as we can roll on, guys. August 20th, Alma, Georgia. No results there, but we do have results for Dawsonville, Georgia at the high school. It's Bruno Jr. over Rick Ferrera. Kevin Von Erich defeating Mike Sharp. And in the main event, no results, but the same match. Jimmy Snuka and Gordy once again taking on Hayes and Wrestling 2. So, presuming the match actually took place as it's advertised here, you have to figure that it worked out okay in Columbus for them to bring it back the next night.
Oh, yeah.
As we're going to roll on.
And don't get me started on Iron Mike Sharp yet, Junior. We'll get to him a little bit later.
Junior, yeah, we'll talk about Junior. Yeah, absolutely.
But the best part about this, here's Kevin doing 2 more house shows this week.
Yeah, he worked the whole week.
So he just must have flown back to Dallas and did the show on Monday night, and then did the Dallas TV taping. What was it? Sunday and Monday they used to do it before they flipped it to Friday night.
Right?
For
yeah.
the Sportatorium.
Right.
So so he's getting some house show action in here in the state of Georgia. He's meeting all those wonderful Georgia peaches.
He certainly is. As we got one more piece of house show business here before we get to the first week of TV here this week on the program, and it's Jasper, Georgia at the Pickens High School, August 21st. On the undercard, it's Bruno Jr. over the French Angel. Mr. Wrestling 2 defeating Iron Mike Sharp Jr. David Sierra, I believe, scoring a win over Ric Ferrera. And in the main event, again, no results. Odd I don't have results for the feature matches, but it is Tommy Rich, Kevin Von Erich, and Michael Hayes. What a trio. They were originally slated to take on the trifecta of Jimmy Snuka, Terry Gordy, and Ken Patera. But as we talked about in the last episode, Patera, he left town. He's not here anymore, so I'm not even really sure who fills in for him here in this six-man, but what a match that would have been.
Oh, yeah, and just a wild guess. I'm going to say they probably got Superstar to fill the role there.
Yeah, good call. Good call. Definitely a high-profile name, just like Ken Patera. If the Superstar was involved, wow, what a six-man tag. What a treat there in the high school. What a main event for high school wrestling.
And if Tommy, Kevin, and Michael won that match, can you imagine the celebration after the show?
Man, I just hope they left the high school before they started celebrating, because we don't, well, I'll just leave that alone. As we're going to go on.
We know one of the three may have stayed.
Well, only one?
I don't know about all three. I never heard anything about the other two.
Okay, fair enough. And we'll just leave all of their names out of it. Keep everybody guessing or not.
Actually, think about it. On a serious note now, This is where, for the last so many TV tapings, and now they're on the road together.
Right.
Michael and Kevin are now forming that friendship that is going to lead to one of the biggest feuds of all time in professional wrestling. Indeed.
That's still to come later on, of course, in the Dallas territory. But we're going to move on to Atlanta, August the 22nd, WTBS Studios, and a special early airing at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Jamie, you said you didn't mind that as long as they didn't interrupt the show completely. At least they put it on maybe a little earlier than usual.
Yeah, well, you got Atlanta Brave baseball later in the day because the strike was settled. So you have a little early wrestling. I had no problem with that because I remember watching this show.
Oh, that's totally awesome. I love that you're going to, moving forward now that you have cable at that point in 1981, you're going to have a lot of memories coming flooding back to you, which is pretty damn cool. As we kick off this week's episode of TV, Gordon Solie out there with the most popular wrestler trophy. He reminds us to send in our votes via postcard to 100 Techwood Drive, Atlanta, GA. Postcards only, guys, or your vote won't count.
Let's find out what city we're going to invade next. That's what that means.
That's exactly what. Let's see what we get from where. As we continue.
And they blame Vince for the wrestling war. This is where it starts.
Well, they say that's why they came to Columbus and took over Ohio, was when they did this before, all of the Wrestling 2 votes that came in from Ohio for whatever reason. And that was pretty damn cool. They were thirsting for more wrestling, Johnny Powers had long gone. The Sheik had killed his territory, and now we got Georgia heading, up to Columbus, and soon they'll take over the other cities as well. But hopefully, Gordon says here, by next week, we're going to have Andre the Giant right here in the TV studio as we see a picture of Andre standing next to what Gordon calls a fellow who stands around 6 feet. That fellow, Jamie, is one Vincent Kennedy McMahon, but here in Georgia, he's just some random dude standing next to Andre.
Yeah, it's not like they never did a show together, right. Co-commentators, like Gordon didn't know who he was. But this is that famous promo where they have Andre standing on the box. So
right.
He looks so much taller
than Vince, right?
Mm-hmm. And Vince really is no short man himself.
No, he's a good sized dude.
And if anything, Gordon might be cheating him an inch or two in height, because I thought I heard Vince was close to 6'3".
I think Vince was around 6'2", but I could be mistaken. It's been a long time since I eyed him up, so it's hard to say for sure. But hey, man, we've got action this week. But before we get to the ring, Gordon Solie going to bring out the brand new National Heavyweight Champion. Here we go. It's the Masked Superstar.
And gone for some time. Since his return, he made the prognosis that he was going to achieve a title in a very, very short period of time. He's done that indeed. He is now the National Heavyweight Wrestling Champion, the Superstar. Welcome back.
There's a lot of individuals that come out on television and say what they're going to do, and it's a lot of hot air. You know that as well as I do. It's very unusual in this day and age for an individual to stand up in front of an audience or stand up in front of a group of people and make a statement and go out and intentionally go out and win that championship like I said I was going to do.
Well, there's certainly no question about it. You have done it, and you've done it in record time, in my opinion. Of course, I would imagine, too, now, there are a list of top men who would be after your title. I'm referring to men like wrestling, too.
I knew someone sooner or later would come up and ask me about my intentions. And I happen to make out my own list. If you'd hold that championship belt, don't run away with it.
All right.
I've got a list of top contenders.
Top contenders?
Individuals that I feel have or should have a golden opportunity to come after my championship belt. Bunk Harris.
Bunk Harris?
Bunk Harris, Haystacks Calhoun. Snake Brown, a very tough competitor. Rick Link. Mike Fever. There's a lot of individuals. Even Danny Miller might go on that list. So I see there's a lot of individuals. A lot of people say, are you going to put your championship belt up? I'll put my championship belt up against anybody who I feel is very, very competent.
And these you feel are the most competent right now? This is your primary list?
Are you questioning my ability? Are you questioning my mental ability as well as my wrestling ability? These men right here are top competitors. If they win a championship match, I'll gladly sign.
Well, isn't that interesting? And I'm thinking of men like wrestling, too, Tommy Wildfire Rich, Kevin Von Erich, Mike Sharp, and a host of others. And he's thinking of, well, okay.
All right, there it is. Superstar, he promised right here on TV last week that he has returned to Georgia to win back all of his championship belts, and he's already started by defeating Steve-O for the national heavyweight title. Now, the last time Superstar was here, that title didn't exist, but we'll ignore that part as he is the new champion. Superstar then rattles off a list of who he feels are the top contenders for his gold. Names including the likes of Bunk Harris, Haystacks Calhoun, Snake Brown, Rick Link, Mike Fever. Superstar says maybe even Danny Miller. I had to write LOL at some of these names, Jamie, because for those who don't know, yeah, there's some job guys in the middle here, but a lot of these guys have long been retired from the sport.
Well, yeah, Haystacks is just about to retire, but
retired, yeah.
We do know Danny Miller is long gone at this point.
Well, Bunk Harris, too. So it's kind of funny, though, as a fighting champion indeed is the Masked Superstar. Just listen to that list of challengers he's looking forward to meet here. As we head off to the ring for our first match this week on television, a tag team encounter featuring Big John Studd and Iron Mike Sharp, and that team just seems like it's right up your alley.
One of my favorite teams of all time. It's just a shame they didn't get a longer run in Georgia. I mean, it's great when Studd's going to return in early 82, where he teams is Super D, but this could have been that team.
Okay. Interesting approach at that. This could have been that team, John Studd.
Know, I'm a big Mike Sharp fan, as you know. Mike Sharp Jr., let me give his credit.
Right.
He doesn't need the armband yet. He's a clean All-American boy, well, Canadian boy.
Gotta get it right.
And then you got Big John Studd, half of the Masked Superstars.
Well, that's trp too. Half the Executioners.
And half the Executioners. The man is a grizzled veteran at this point. However, even though I do have to admit, Gordon talks about him being close to 7 foot, but he's not as impressive as he becomes later on. I mean, down the line, he looks much bigger because I guess they talk him up, but they don't really talk up his height and size.
Yeah, we're going to see something happen in this match, which totally blew my mind, and I was really shocked that they allowed it to happen. And we'll get to that in a minute because this is supposed to be a squash match with Studd and Sharp taking on Mike Fever and Jerry Mahoney. And Fever, one of Superstar's many credible challengers, so this could be a competitive match. I had to chuckle, though. Fever's trunks with the initials MF on there. I guess you could call him MFer.
I caught that. I didn't catch it back in the day, but I did catch it as I was reviewing my tapes for this episode.
Referee here, still George Scott Jr. He's still here for the time being. I think he's going to stick around for a little while longer. Is Studd going to start this one off, dominating Mahoney in the ring? Mike Sharp tagging in with forearms o'plenty on both of his opponents and a whole lot of grunting. As Mahoney not only somehow gets a rope break on a Mike Sharp full Nelson, but he manages to break a Big John Studd bear hug. I don't know why these guys thought this was a good idea to let this job guy, sorry out there, this enhancement talent, if you will, or escapes Mike Sharp's full Nelson by getting to the ropes, and then he literally breaks the bear hug of John. Now, I'm not saying he took his arms and broke out of it that way, but he did escape the bear hug of John Studd as well. Just really odd.
Well, they're showing the credibility of the enhancement talent. I mean, a lot of times, and I'm surprised, now I'm getting to watch the shows in full again, how the a lot of the TV matches were. Unlike the WWF TV matches at the time where, the heel would just massacre Frankie Williams or Miguel Feliciano. At some point during every one of these matches, the enhancement talent does get a brief moment or two to shine against the heel.
Yeah, they really do, and in many instances, deservingly so. There's a lot of good talent here as far as the enhancement workers, but just kind of odd seeing these two, especially people the size of a Sharp and a Stud, really took me off. I really didn't see it coming, but the Job guys, they make a lot of tags, but they get very little offense. So it's really just trying to avoid getting beat up. But it's John Studd with the over-the-shoulder backbreaker on Mahoney. Finally going to get the win. Match goes 6 minutes and 16 seconds. Kind of prolonged for a couple of guys the size of Sharp and Studd, I thought, but we're going to see a lot of the matches go 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes.
Yeah, you would have thought that would have been a lopsided 2 to 3 minute match tops where they just massacre those guys. But I guess it just wasn't in the cards for them to be a main event tag team, especially when you have Snuka and Gordy.
Oh, yeah.
You really can't have a second heel tag team.
No, nobody's
going to get pushed anywhere.
You could have had pretty much any two guys team up, and they weren't going to be the level of a Gordy and Snuka, so they're already set where they are as the top heel team. And we do get a fun little match there as we continue on. Oh, man, Grumpy Wrestling 2 back in the Atlanta studio, going one-on-one with Ed Tims here as Wrestling 2 working a key lock on the arm, looking painful, really locking that in. Lots of exhibition-like holds here from Wrestling 2, a lot of takedowns, a front chancery, top wrist lock. So W2 just doing whatever he wants here to poor Ed Tims. That is until Ed with a cheap shot, a sucker punch, gives him an opening, briefly, very briefly, as it only seems to piss number 2 off as Tims takes an awful backdrop. I wrote maybe the worst I've ever seen, but it's the $1 million knee lift. Got to give Wrestling 2 the win, 5 minutes and 13 seconds.
See, this is what's going to make Wrestling 2 and Kevin Von Erich such a good tag team, because they're just going to go in there and somebody's getting hurt. And before the end of this show, as a matter of fact, maybe even in the next match, somebody's going to get hurt.
Oh, you bring up a very good point. I see where we're heading here. But before we go back to the next match, we have a promo now, of all people, of course, with your man. Here he is, Michael P.S. Hayes.
Well, I'm hoping there you hear it. Yes, indeed. The music of the fabulous Freebird. And that, of course, means the entrance of one Michael Hayes. And there you see him in front of the camera, and a gentleman who is certainly not short on modesty whatsoever.
Song sounds so good, Gordon Solie. You know, Gordon, that's a funky name. I ain't got to tell you that, baby. That's a funky name, Gordon. You know, last night I just happened to get just a little bit of time home with the old lady. And she got to looking real close at this face because we had the lights down low. It was romantic. Woo. And she said, you know, I noticed you got another scar on top of your head, Michael, but I still think you look sexy. And I said, well, thank you, baby, but you see, you understand that the looks and all that stuff is in my past because now I got to get even, like I've been talking about, like my big new friend. Y'all know who I'm talking about, baby? Can y'all sort of spy him up so everybody knows? Now, I know you're going to say right now, in the Omni.
Right.
But don't worry about the Omni, because tonight, the Freebird and all of Fantasia are going to go to Sweet Home Gadsden, Alabama. That's right, because there's still a week to go, Terry. And you see, I done decided what I'm going to do, boy, is I'm going to take it nice and slow. And I'm going to pick your mind apart piece by piece, what little bit I ain't beat out already. And I'm going to hurt you slowly, because you're never going to know where I'm coming from or what I'm going to do. And Mr. Superfly has got the honorable and dubious distinction of trying to handle 7 feet of only the good Lord knows what to do with.
Andre the Giant,
That's
indeed.
right, Andre the Giant. Now, you said he may be a gentleman outside of the ring, but me and Andre going to get down and dirty because we're going to feel kind of mean, and, baby, we're going to take it from one to the other extreme. That's right. Because I got something to do. And y'all know, when Fantasia got something to do, it's got to get done.
Did you know, Jamie, that apparently Gordon is a funky name? That was kind of odd and out of nowhere there from Hayes, as he says he was home with the old lady earlier this week, and she says he looks sexy. even with the recent scars at the hands of Gordy and Snuka. But looks are in the past for Michael. Somehow I doubt that. He says it's about revenge now, Jammie. And next week at the Omni, it's going to be tag team action, Hayes and Andre against Gordy and Snuka. But tonight, it's Sweet Home Gadsden, Alabama on the house show circuit, as Hayes again putting over Andre coming to town for the Omni card.
Kind of like him putting over Santa coming to town. I mean, you know, in the words of Michael Hayes, I'm going to take Andre out, and we're going to get nasty.
They're going to get nasty.
I
drink a whole lot of Jack Daniels.
I'm not good at imitations like Gene Jackson.
Well. Well, that's all right. You know, that's okay. We'll figure out. You could do a mean Steve-O, actually, if truth be told.
Yeah, well, yeah, if I have to, I can, I guess.
We're going to go back to the ring for the match you referenced just a moment ago. Now it's Kevin Von Erich taking on poor Ric Ferrera. As the action gets going, man, nice, crisp, quick wrestling moves and sequences here in the ring by Kevin. I'm really impressed. I'm digging Kevin more here in Atlanta than I ever did in Dallas.
Kevin looks absolutely great in every one of these matches.
Yeah. It's like it's before he got a hold of whatever fried his brain. I don't know.
Well, that's when Michael gets to Texas, so that explains a lot.
During the matchup here, Wrestling 2 going to join commentary in his very monotone voice here. He says he knows that he's going to win the best wrestler contest from the fans. He's already leading so far ahead, he just hopes some other guys get some votes. Then he just abruptly leaves commentary mid-match. I wrote, wow, what the hell was that, Jammie? I wrote, heel Wrestling 2.
He's Wrestling 2. He could do whatever he wants and when he wants.
He just shows up mid-match, leaves still while the action's going on, states that he already knows he's going to win the best wrestler contest. He just hopes some people vote for the other guys as well. What an ego, this masked man.
No, he's showing his humanity right there.
Is that what it is? Well, he won the last, one of these gimmicks, right? He got all the big votes and whatnot.
That was the match with Harley Race back in 1980. And what might as well take it the next step. That's how they found out they had the big Columbus audience, because they all voted for Wrestling 2 from Columbus, Ohio.
Thanks a lot, Columbus.
Now, unlike Frankie Williams, Mr. Wrestling 2 actually won a match in Columbus, Ohio.
Well, that's true. That's true, too. The match, though, there is a match in the ring, I should point out. We were talking about Kevin a little bit ago. He lays in some strikes. Boy, does he ever, all over the head area and perhaps the nose, and a very high drop kick. Flying head scissors leading to Kevin's body scissors. He's looking for that rollback cradle, but Ferrera, low center of gravity as it is, he falls on his face rather than falling backwards. Von Erich, though, somehow makes it work, rolling it over into the cradle and scoring the win. Match goes 5 minutes and 47 seconds. And we learn later on commentary, Jammie, you kind of mentioned this already, Gordon Solie mentions that Ric Ferrera suffers a broken nose during this match. And I don't even want to begin to guess where it took place because there's so many different opportunities for it to happen.
If anyone gets a chance, please go back and watch this match, because at the end, besides Kevin just having a field day with Ric Ferrera, who's a very creditable enhancement talent guy. I mean,
no, Ferrera's been around forever. He actually got pushes in places when he first broke in. He did like a playoff of Ivan Putski, kind of Igor Putski, once upon a time. Okay. So, yeah.
I'm not familiar with his background, but except for his Mid-South stuff and here, and I think I saw him in Florida a little bit, but he was definitely talented, and in the proper promotion, I could believe he probably got a push somewhere. But after the match, Kevin kind of asks him if he's okay, and he ignores him. and then he kind of gets down in Ferrera's face and looks at him. And he's like, "You all right?" And he goes to try to grab his hand, and Ferrera just pushes his hand away, and he turns around and goes to the other side of the ring. And you could just see it. He is ticked. I bet when he got back in the locker room, him and Kevin had to have some kind of words.
Yeah, I have no doubt. Ferrera's going to stick around, though, and we'll talk about that as we continue on. But yeah, I didn't notice all of the confrontation afterwards. I'm glad that you pointed that out. That's cool. I can go back and watch that myself now. But yeah, take your pick where the shot came from. But broken nose, Ric Ferrera there. Kevin Von Erich scoring the win as we go back to Gordon. Once again, it's another promo from the Masked Superstar.
Now the moment right now to talk to the National Heavyweight Wrestling Champion, the Superstar. I've had a lot of letters. A lot of people have called me on the phone requesting further information about the Superstar. It's quite obvious once you get in the ring that you are a highly trained professional athlete. A lot of people, and I don't want you to, You obviously want to keep your identity a secret. That's certainly your prerogative. But I just wonder if you'd be kind enough to perhaps give us some sort of an amateur background. What sports did you participate in?
You know, Gordon, I've respected you for a long time for the simple fact that you were one of the few individuals who never pried into my background. Now, don't let me stand out here and lose some respect for you. The fact remains that I am a professional wrestler. I choose to wear a mask because I enjoy my privacy. I also like to get into the ring and meet these individuals in the ring. Now, don't ask me about my past because I don't live in the past. I live for present day and future. Nothing more.
Fair enough. Let's talk about the future then, and let's talk about Saturday night at the Omni in Atlanta, the 29th. Tickets are on sale at all seats locations and the Omni, of course. And you will be going after Tommy Wildfire Rich in the Georgia title.
First of all, I'm going to have a tune-up match tonight in Carrollton. Then I'm going to get down to business next week in the Omni. Tommy Rich, you only have one more week. It seems as everybody's upset with me right now. Steve O's mad because he used to have this belt and now I do. Wrestling 2, he's mad at everybody. And Tommy Rich is upset because he's got 13 stitches in his head. Well, Tommy, I'm a little mad too because I meant to give you 38. You've got one more week, 7 more days to think about it. I'm ready. I already have a championship belt. But Saturday night in the Omni, I'm coming after the Georgia Heavyweight Championship. There's not going to be any excuses, Tommy. I've only got one match to prepare for, not 2. Just one man to think about. And I'm thinking about you 7 more evenings.
Gordon says he respects that Superstar. He wants to keep his identity hidden, Jamie, but he asks him about his sporting and athletic background instead. Now, Superstar wisely doesn't divulge anything here. He doesn't live in the past, he tells Gordon. He lives in the now and in the future. As a Superstar going to dismiss a potential title shot rematch against Steve-O, as it's now on to Tommy Rich and the Georgia belt.
Yeah, this is where I know I've said Michael Hayes was the first heel I ever liked, and then there was Roddy Piper, who's probably, yes,
in a world of his own.
Greater than Michael Hayes that I liked as a heel was Roddy Piper. But Masked Superstar was probably number 3. These interviews since he has come back, or was it sometime in July, they're like thinking man interviews, and they're really deep. And rewatching them now just makes me appreciate the brilliance of Bill Eadie even more.
So always so articulate, long before he did the yelling, shouting acts of demolition promos, which were good too in their own right. But yeah, I always love the heel Masked Superstar, very articulate. And we're going to get to a really fun one here before we're done with this episode. I'm looking forward to getting there. But for right now, we're back to the ring. Georgia Tag Team Champions Terry Gordy and Superfly Snuka taking on Rick Thor and Jim Powell. And poor Rick Thor, he's in the ring first, and he gets the beatdown of a lifetime, tossed outside the ring 3 times in a row. They keep whipping him out, and he keeps getting back in, and they just keep doing it to the point where it just became funny to me.
I mean, how would you like knowing you're enhancement talent, and you're going to wind up, you just look at that murderer's row of who you're going to have to work with possibly.
Right.
Snuka, Von Erich, Wrestling 2. How do you get away from not getting matched up with one of these guys?
I don't know.
You have to run up
I'm hoping I'm working.
And say, Ole, please. I know you're only paying me $20, but can I have somebody? Yeah, can I have Steve-O? Can I have George Wells? God, can I have David Sammartino? Anybody but Kevin Von Erich or Terry Gordy or Snuka, because I don't know what the guy's going to do.
Well, this is fun here because Thor can't do it. It's the first time we've ever seen Rick Thor here in the territory, and he can't seem to do anything here. They keep whipping him out. He keeps getting back in the ring, and honestly, it's not like he's going to get any offense in, but he does finally tag out to partner Jim Powell, who evades for the most part both of the team members and then tags back to Thor. So wise move there by Powell. And then it's the Gordy suplex followed by a Superfly splash and that Tongan death grip, that claw hold by Snuka, going to get the win in 4 minutes and 9 seconds. Gordon Solie still referring to it as a mandible claw, which it is not, but it is what it is, as the heels go over here. And Rick Thor just not having a great day.
That's a great finisher that Snuka was using with that claw. But there was something that I picked up as I watched this show, and 43 years ago, I didn't pick up on this. And even with what we've seen so far since we've been doing the podcast, that is one small ring.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's so low to the ground.
Snuka basically stands on the top turnbuckle and doesn't really leap. He just kind of falls forward.
Right.
It does and does a splash. It's not like what you saw when he got to the WWF where, Vince would say 10 feet in the air.
Right.
No, he just basically just falls right on top of him.
Still very believable, though. I'll tell you that.
Oh, yeah, very, very believable. I mean, even as we go on and we watch some of the, I'm watching George Wells deliver a shoulder.
Oh, yeah, that's coming.
But he takes one leap and he's almost to the other rope when he goes by with his shoulder.
Right.
I never realized how small the ring was. And even in the match we're about to talk about next, Bruce Reed with the diving shoulder, I mean, he's 3/4 of the way across the ring. I just never realized how small it was before.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I can't say, I always notice how small it is. It sticks out to me, especially like when we see Andre later coming to ringside, but we'll talk about that when we get there. For right now, we're going to head off to Gordon Solie again, this time talking to the Georgia Tag Team Champions. Here they are, Gordy and Snuka.
Squarely in the rib cage, and of course knocking the wind out of them and scoring the pinfall. Actually, it is a submission and pinfall combination. Very devastating indeed.
Hey, that's right, Gordon Solie. Anything we do is devastating, baby. It's just like this, baby. We are the champions. I want this camera right here. I want you to get a good close-up. I want you to take a good look at them.
Well, we have a good look at them, the Georgia Tag Team Champions, and we'll be back in just a moment. Well, continuing now our conversation with the Georgia Tag Team Champions. We had to break away there for a quick commercial message, but nonetheless, quite an impressive victory.
Hey, that's right, Gordon Solie. Just before I got rudely interrupted and just before the station took a commercial break, I was telling the cameraman, would you get a close-up shot right here on both of us? Could you do that on both of us right here? Could you get a close-up shot so the people can see their champions, baby? Because you got something to look at, We're young, we're pretty, and we're mean, baby.
Well, maybe after next Saturday night, when you and Mr. Snuka face Michael Hayes and Andre the Giant, things might be a little different.
Hey, Michael Hayes might not even make it till next Saturday night, because tonight in Gaston, Alabama, we're going to be getting down on your head, boy, just like it's supposed to be done. And now, next Saturday night in the Albany, baby, that's where it's all going to take place. If you do make it, Michael Hayes, I'm going to let my brother Superfly right here take care of the big freak. That's what I said, a big freak. Well, I take care of this Michael Hayes. Michael Hayes, like I told you before, boy, you did the wrong thing, man. When you come messing with fire, you're going to get burnt, boy.
There are going to be a lot of surprises in store for a lot of people. Next Saturday night at the Omni. Tickets on sale at all seats locations and the Omni.
So Gordy has really come into his own here on the promos, I've noticed as of late. Not stuttering, not stammering. He's not searching for words. Very just laying everything out as matter-of-factly as possible. Good, solid heel promos, and with meaning. There's meaning behind everything he says. And here he warns Michael Hayes and that big freak, Andre the Giant.
Yeah, hanging out with Hayes definitely paid off. I mean, at this point, Gordy is a very solid interview. And even if him and Hayes had never reunited, I think he would have been just fine on his own, being able to talk for the rest of his career.
Yeah, first couple of promos after they split, I'm not saying Gordy sounded lost because he didn't, but it was just kind of there. And then there was a promo, a real weird one, where he pretty much tried to mimic a Michael Hayes promo, which really didn't fit Gordy. But as of late, man, he's really coming to his own with his own heel-style promo, doing a great job. As we head back to the ring, well, here's a competitive match. National Heavyweight Champion, Masked Superstar, taking on, you mentioned him, Bruce Reed, the future Butch Reed. I don't think he was on that list of challengers Superstar rattled off, but he's going to wrestle him here today on TV. As Superstar, he tries to unload early, but Reed just fires off a round of those soup bone rights, sending the Masked Man out to the floor early on, and then back inside Superstar with a cheap shot on a rope break, but Reed again taking control, landing a running body block, forcing the national champion back outside the ring yet again, as Steve-O going to join commentary here. Of course, Superstar took the title from Steve, so he has some things to say. And after some stalling, it's take 3 as Superstar re-enters the ring yet again. And Bruce, though, going to continue on control with a side headlock. Superstar finally managed to escape, but runs into a Reed flying shoulder block, the one you were just talking about there. And Superstar, quickly and wisely, once again, bails out of the ring.
Thinky man's wrestler right there.
Yeah, he's trying to change the tide here, try to calm things down, but it just isn't working as of yet. as once again the masked champion re-enters the ring, but Bruce remains in control, now working the arm of the masked man with a hammerlock and arm bar. The two men finally make their way back to their feet, trading blows, as Reed landing a drop kick, but he misses a flying tackle, and basically he hot shots himself across that top rope, and then Superstar up quick to capitalize with a flying clothesline, and then it's the Cobra clutch, the Cobra hold, and Reed going to try to fight his way out, going from his knees up to his feet, but quickly back down to his knees, and ruled unable to continue by referee George Scott Jr. Superstar going to get the win, 10 minutes and 30 seconds. And I won't call this the most exciting match of all time, Jamie, but Bill Eadie is giving Butch Reed basically the entire match, as this is Butch's swan song. This is his final match here in the Georgia territory.
Yeah, Bruce's 4-month Georgia tour is over. On TV, this is the best he's looked since his first match against the Freebirds. And of course, it's his final match.
Yeah, and kudos to Eadie, who basically gave Reed everything he wanted in this match, made him look great on the way out. You know, this is cable
absolutely.
TV, so wherever Butch is going after this, he has credibility as he took Superstar to the limit here. And, you know, this was obviously all Bill Eadie. I don't think anybody backstage said, go out there and make Bruce look like, you know, $1 million on his way out. I think this was Superstar, and I think he's even going to put Bruce over in an upcoming promo as well. So kudos to Bill Eadie for being a great professional here.
And that's what I've always heard about him in years of being a fan, is that he always did what was right, Bill Eadie, and everybody loved to work with him.
Yeah, definitely a good guy, but an awesome heel in the ring. As we continue on, it's back out for a second promo. Here we are, Gordon Solie standing by. Interview time once again with Michael Hayes, but he's going to have some uninvited guests.
Well, the original Freebird now, Michael Hayes, has joined me, and I think you would have to admit, as well as anybody else, that was an outstanding match between the Superstar and Bruce.
Super match when you have top weight contenders on television against each other, and I thought Bruce did a fine job. But to get away from that, you know, the reason I'm out here is because I want to let everybody know that history's going to take place in just a little while, because me and Wildfire Tommy Rich going to team up and get right in there. I'm going to put on some trunks, and we're going to see just what we can do together.
This will be a first for television, I might point out. Michael Hayes and Tommy Wildfire Rich as a tag team combination. That's coming up.
Hey, boy, nobody cares about you and Wildfire, man. What are you doing out here talking about you and Wildfire when nobody cares about it?
Well, now, just a minute, gentlemen. I don't want any problems here at the desk. I'm talking to Mr. Hayes.
You know something? You've always got somebody standing right in front of you doing something for you. If it wasn't me, then it's him.
Hey, wait just a second. I don't need nobody.
Hey, don't you put your
front
hand
of
on me.
I don't need nobody. That's just what I...
Hold it. Michael Hayes, well, a free-for-all erupting here, and...
to my man like this, do you understand? Man, look at this. Man, I come out here to say a few words, and I get a jacket ripped off of me. Man. Hey, Gordon Solie, I don't like to be humiliated on nationwide TV like this. I don't like to be embarrassed, man. Look at that.
Well, I'm sorry, sir, but you came out here uninvited. I was talking to Mr. Hayes. I don't wish to take issue or sides in this situation at all. But I would appreciate it, gentlemen, if you would just leave this area, because we've got a program here, and I prefer to have nothing...
Hey, boy. Yeah, that's something, man. That's really something. I come out here to say a few words, and I get a jacket ripped off of me. Well, that's not the point. You know, I'll go buy 100 of these jackets, boy. It's just a part of you trying to embarrass me right here on nationwide TV. And you're not going to do it, Michael Hayes.
Yeah, well, okay, I'll tell you what, gentlemen. I think we better move along with the program while we can. Let's turn it over to our ring announcer, please.
So Michael, he was doing his usual shtick there, but he's interrupted this time by the Georgia Tag Team Champions Gordy and Snuka, now dressed in their street clothes. They're done for the day. Michael trying to fire Gordy up, saying that Terry, he always needed somebody to get the job done for him, whether it was Hayes or now Jimmy Snuka. And we get a little tussle there between the two former Freebirds, leading to Hayes ripping Gordy's suit jacket straight up the back. And Terry, he don't like to be embarrassed. But Gordon Solie tells, and I love this line, Gordon tells Gordy there, he says, well, you had no business out here for this segment anyway. So what do you expect?
Gordon always tells it how it is. But you would think if you're going to get your jacket that you just bought, I guess back in those days, Kmart would have been the big place to buy a jacket like that. You'd have keep running after Hayes. Why are you going to let him just go to the back on his own? Continue on.
No, yeah, it's just odd that Snuka didn't get involved there, but I guess they needed to rip that jacket. As we're going to continue on, we're going to head back to the ring. Here we go. Nature Boy Ric Flair back in Atlanta, taking on Ken Timms.
I wonder why Nature Boy is back.
Yeah, it's really odd, isn't it? What odd timing here. He's not really doing anything, or we'll see. But right now it is Ric Flair taking on Ken Timms, and he takes Timms to school here. Lots of basics, but done well, as you might imagine. Timms gets in a few shots, but it only fires Flair up as he lands some stiff shots in return, tossing Timms to the outside, finally dragging him back in the ring, where the Nature Boy gives us a little strut before he hits a high vertical suplex and the figure 4 leg lock, going to score the win. 5 minutes and 8 seconds. Ric Flair looking good here this week in Atlanta.
And another Ric Flair match on TBS in which you really don't know, is he a good guy or bad guy? We really don't know where he lies. I mean, the last time he was around, what was it, back in April, was for that, they had him on TV for about a month ahead of time leading into the Harley race match, but we didn't know who the good guy or bad guy was in that match either.
Right, because you would presume it was Flair, but his promos came off very heel-like at the time, and we're going to have a promo here from Ric Flair. Spoiler alert, guys, in just a little bit. But first, we go off to a promo involving the Wildfire, the Georgia heavyweight champion. Here he is, Tommy Rich.
Here comes Tommy Wildfire Rich, and of course he and Tommy and Mike Hayes will be tag team partners a little bit later on in the program.
You know, it's going to be wrestling history, Gordon. The first time Michael Hayes and myself were teaming up together. You know, it looks like Hayes has finally seen the light. I didn't know if he was going to stick to it or if it was a trick or what, but evidently, you know, Hayes has had a turn of heart, a change of heart, or whatever you want to call it. You know, a while ago, the Superstar, you know, he beat Steve-O for the belt. He won the belt. But now then, I heard him out here earlier talking about all the contenders, Snake Brown, Timms. You know, he ain't naming Rasslin number 2. He ain't naming Tommy Rich. He ain't naming Steve-O again. What's the matter, Superstar? You ain't got the guts to lay the title out on the line? I give him a shot at the Georgia belt. I got the guts to do it. Just like I said, Superstar. Anytime, any place, anywhere you want it, it's yours. Because I'm going to sign the contract anytime. I've got the guts. I ain't going to try to just sit on the belt and hold it.
Well, I can certainly understand that. You've always been that kind of a competitor. Of course, next Saturday night at the Omni in Atlanta, a crucial night.
Yeah, payback night. Payback night. The last Omni, Superstar, you laid my head open 13 stitches. That's right. That's right, but I'm still here, and I'm well, I'm kicking, I feel better than ever. The Omni, Superstar, you better be ready, because not only am I coming to defend that belt, I'm coming for a little payback. If I get a chance to rip that hood off, I'm going to rip it right off your head. I'd like to see what that face is all about. You either got something inside that mask, like I said last time, your head was a little hard, so you either got something in there, or you're an awful ugly person. So at the Omni, we're going to find out just what it is, because if I get the chance, Superstar, I'm going to pull that mask off, and then I'm going to beat you.
Thank you so very much. Tommy Wildfire Rich going up against the Superstar, the Georgia Tag Team Championship, on the line next Saturday night at the Omni in Atlanta. Tickets currently on...
Yes, sir.
Tickets on sale at all seats, locations, and the Omni.
So Tommy claiming that it's going to be wrestling history here today on the program. He claims it's the first time that he will ever team with Michael Hayes. Now, we've already seen him on some of the house shows, so you could call this a little kayfabe, or it could just be Tommy forgetting for various reasons here. Then he goes on to talk about the Masked Superstar, making his own challenger list. Tommy asks, why won't you take on a real challenge? So Tommy putting his belt up, Georgia title on the line at the Omni. Why isn't the Superstar putting up the national belt? Wait a minute, Tommy, you said that Superstars, the names aren't real challengers? Are you saying Bunk Harris and Danny Miller aren't a real challenge? I don't know about that. But after their last encounter, Tommy talks about the Superstar. He left Tommy laying bloody on the mat, 37 stitches in his head. Well, he's not just coming to the Omni to defend his title, but he's coming for payback. And if he gets the chance, he just might take that mask right off the Superstar.
If anybody can do it, it's Tommy Rich when he's fired up.
You know, I didn't really put two and two together the last promo last week on TV. Tommy cut about taking that mask off Superstar. I thought it came off very heel-like, but it's explained a little better here this week. He's talking about it in regards to revenge. Hey, you left me laying in a pool of my own blood. Maybe I'll just take your mask for revenge. So it makes a little more sense here this week for me. As we continue on, we got another promo lined up right now, and we just saw him in action, and now it's off to Gordon Solie standing by with the Nature Boy. Here he is, Ric Flair.
You have your superstars in golf, your Tom Watsons, in football, your Steve Bartkowskis, in baseball, your George Bretts, and in wrestling, well, when you talk about superstars, that becomes synonymous with the word Ric Flair, and it's certainly a pleasure to have Mr. Flair back with us.
Well, Gordon, I appreciate that. Georgia, the focal point, Georgia Championship Wrestling, worldwide, the greatest competition. We talk about Snuka, Gordy, Rich, Steve-O, Wrestling 2, the Superstar. The list is endless. And as I said a couple weeks ago, when these gentlemen want to find out where they really, truly stand, where they really, truly rank in professional wrestling, then all they got to do, pick up a piece of paper similar to this. It's called a contract. They put their name on one side, and I put my name on the other side. It's an open offer. Think about it, boys, long and hard. You know, I like to think of myself as a semi-clean living man now, Gordon. And I try to get in that ring, and with an open mind, I try to give everybody an opportunity to wrestle by the rules. But if you want to get nasty, then Ric Flair, as a lot of wrestling fans will tell you, wrote the book on how to break the rules. He wrote the book on how to talk to the ladies. He wrote the book on how to dress. He wrote the book on the big cars to drive. He's written a book on a lot of things. But the main thing he's concentrating on right now is writing a book on professional wrestling. Georgia Championship Wrestling, a lot of big stars, a lot of big names, a lot of great competition. And Gordon Solie, I'm going to hang real tight right here until I take the measure of every man wrestling in the Georgia Championship area. Like it or not. Woo!
There you have it, the comments from Ric Flair. Let's go to the ring. We've got an outstanding match.
So Flair running down a list of the talent here, and as we talked about it off air, you said a stacked Georgia roster right now. But if they want to find where they really stand in the world of professional wrestling, Ric Flair said, put their name on the contract against the Nature Boy. As Flair trying to play by the rules, he says, but he'll get dirty too. Woo!
Confusing. But he's the Nature Boy. He can pull it off. He gets away with it. No problem.
Yeah, he's always tweening, I suppose. I mean, you're going to like him or you're not going to like him. You know, it's just the way it is. Whether it's his promo, his wrestling style, or his gimmick, you're going to pick and choose, and, going to make a decision based on that at the end of the day, not so much who he likes or who he dislikes at his promo time here. But again, we talked about, if you right now you want to, we could bring it up right now, Flair running down a nice list of talent there, and you were telling me off air, you were just amazed at the stacked roster right now in the territory.
Yeah, just about everybody. Well, not only the guys that are winning the matches on this show, the underneath talent actually a lot of them end up getting pushes as we go along. We're about to see Professor Sonoda, who became Kabuki too, correct?
Right, correct, yes. And the Magic Dragon in Dallas as well.
At the Magic Dragon, and we're going to wind up seeing Jim Nelson. We saw Denny Brown. We saw David Sierra. A lot of good underneath talent, along with the main event talent. I mean, Kevin and Two and Rich and Hayes and Snuka and Superstar and Butch Reed and even Master G, George Wells himself was no schlub at this time.
Not at this time.
And you got Brody and you got the future King Kong Bundy coming in. I mean, Georgia was loaded with talent, and all these guys within 2 to 3 years, even some of the undercard guys are all going to be getting pushes somewhere right near the top of the cards.
Yeah, it's pretty damn cool to see all of this talent here. Some already thriving, some just a year or two away, as you said. So it's pretty cool looking at the roster up and down, including several of them in this matchup here. Tag team action, going to see Bruno Sammartino Jr. teaming with George Wells, taking on the team of Professor Sonoda. Well, here's a name I've never heard before. Tomahawk Thompson. I don't know that he ever makes it in this business. First time I think we've actually got to see Sonoda wrestle. I'm not saying he hasn't worked TV before, but up until now we weren't getting the full episodes. And now we finally get to see Sonoda in action here, so I was pretty happy with that. As David Sammartino showing off his strongman skills early on, he literally clean jerked Sonoda up into a power slam. I wrote impressive spot as we get small doses of potential here by young Sammartino.
Yeah, he's not horrible. David's early in his career and is showing that he does have potential. I mean, he's not that bad when he gets to the WWF. And he took a lot of heat just because he wasn't his own man. It was impossible to live in his shadow. He might have been better off being himself under a different name than trying to do the Bruno Jr. Or even David gimmick. He should have probably just been, David Smith or something like that. It might have had a nice career.
Right.
Maybe not, the very top, but he could have been well into the upper mid card like an Iron Mike Sharp Jr.
Well, I mean, submitting to a Ron Shaw bear hug doesn't do great justice for your future in the world of professional wrestling. And then they hire him back again in 87, 88, and he attacks a fan and gets fired again. So, I mean, maybe his own worst enemy at the same time.
Very true.
But we're going to continue on with the tag team action here. Sonoda, he's going to try some martial arts here on George Wells, but George catches the foot of Sonoda and lands a flying head scissors. So impressive. George Wells was jacked, and he was a big dude to be busting out some of these moves back in 81. As we see Sonoda make the tag, here he is, Tomahawk Thompson. And I got to tell you guys, this name has to be a rib because he looks absolutely awful, just dreadful, as Tomahawk immediately proving that he has no idea what he's doing in the ring. We've seen a couple of those type of enhancement talent lately in the Atlanta studios. Also, I want to make it clear, as I looked up this name, I do not want to confuse this Tomahawk Thompson with a Muay Thai boxer, Michael Tomahawk Thompson. Definitely, if you watch both of them, you can see the differences. As Sonoda tagging back in, taking over on George Wells, but eventually old Tomahawk returns, and the baby faces immediately take back over. Bruno, not only did he do that clean jerk power slam earlier, but showing off a little agility with a drop kick. I wrote, wow, I don't remember David looking so good. And then a back suplex, going to get himself a 2 count on Thompson as a snap power slam by Sammartino then on Sonoda, but the professor retaliates with an uppercut chop to the chin. Kind of cool, like an uppercut, but with a chop. It looked kind of cool.
Yeah, it did. It was a very unique maneuver.
And then Sonoda, though, unfortunately, he keeps making the big mistake of bringing Tomahawk back in the ring, who eats a giant backdrop high in the air from George Wells. And this is awesome. Wells just mauls Thompson over with a shoulder tackle, just drills him through, just right through him. And the babyface is going to go over in 6 minutes and 11 seconds. Great finish there from George Wells.
Yeah, I don't think Thompson knew that was coming.
Well, I tell you what, if the guy wasn't good at bumping, he didn't have really much of an option after that one.
No, not at all. But Wells looked really impressive during this match.
He did, and he's going to continue to impress me. I know I have more notes on George as we go along.
And it's a shame he didn't get a bigger push here in Georgia. I mean, him and Bruce should have got, against Gordy and Snuka, should have at least had a one Omni show with them.
Oh, yeah, I would have showcased that all day.
And they could even, instead of, I know you're going to shoot me, instead of Steve-O and DiBiase maybe taking the belts, it wouldn't have been the worst thing to give them the belts.
No, I totally support that.
A quick run.
Yeah, I totally support that. We've already got DiBiase pushed hard. Steve-O's already done three different titles. I mean, really they didn't need that spot. Yeah, I totally agree. I would have liked to have seen that Wells and Reed for, even if it was for a month or whatever, or an Omni to an Omni transitional champion, whatever the case may be. I totally support that. As we're going to continue on. I know you're loving this episode because back for the third time, it's a trifecta now of Michael Hayes interviews with Gordon Solie.
That's right, the fabulous Freebird Michael Hayes. And in a little while, we're going to see him in action along with Tommy Wildfire Rich. And as you can see,
I'm getting ready, baby. Look at the body. It is getting ready. I feel good. I do. You know, I want to digress just a second. I've been getting letters from all over the country, and everybody been asking me about my little brother and how he did in the baseball and all that. He did just fine, and I thank you for asking. But I want to get to something a little bit more to the point. You know, I heard the big baby out here whining and crying, and he said, I can go get me 10 more jackets.
I think he actually said 100.
Did he say 100? Well, I figure they're going at about $15 a piece. So if you get the camera up real close here, you'll see that I got $160. Now, 15 times 10 is 150, so that should buy you 10 more. And I guess everybody's wondering what the extra $10 is for. It's to buy you a big rattle. Because that's just what he looked like out here, a big baby Huey whining and crying. Hey, that's right, big baby Huey Gordy out here whining and crying about his little $15 jacket. Let me tell you something, baby. Next time, I'm going to start ripping and tearing at your body. You understand? And there ain't no store you can go that can fix that. Now, you talk about the Omni. And he said, is Michael Hayes going to make it? Well, there's a lot of places in between that we just may meet up. You understand? It could be tonight in Gainesville, tomorrow night in Gainesville, tonight in Gaston, Monday night Augusta. I don't care. I'm going to be at the Omni because the Omni is now Freebird Building. That's right, the Freebird Building. And me and the biggest man that I could have found. The biggest man that I could have found, Andre the Giant. And I got a little surprise for y'all, see? Everybody's wondering, where is Andre? Don't worry about Andre. I got Andre just where I want him. And I'm going to get him just right. Right and funky, right and nasty. Because that's the way I like to be, you understand? I said it before, the face is beautiful. It was until y'all started beating on it. The body is right, but the heart is nasty, Gordon. And Terry, I got your number, baby. I'm going to pick you apart, piece by piece.
So Michael making that final hard sell for tonight, Gadsden, Alabama, and then next week at the Omni. P.S. Hayes back out here with $160 in his hand. He says it's to buy Gordy 10 more of those $15 jackets he was wearing, and the other 10 to buy Baby Huey a baby rattle. And I had to pop for that. I hadn't thought of Baby Huey in 35 years or more. For those of you who have no idea who that is or what that was, cartoon character, go Google it, as I totally envisioned Terry Gordy as a Baby Huey here. And I wrote, they so needed one of those crybaby matches between Hayes and Gordy. Talk about money making. Could you imagine Gordy with the pacifier, the diaper, the bonnet? Oh, man, that's money.
Well, we're not going to get to see the diaper, but I believe we're going to get to see the pacifier and bonnet at some point coming up here in the next, let's see, this feud runs through Christmas. So we still got another 4 months.
Right.
You got a good possibility of seeing it.
Yeah, I envision that Razor 1-2-3 Kid feud. I would have loved to have seen Gordy get diapered, but I don't, again, you can't do that to a guy his size, but I see the Baby Huey resemblance.
The way this feud should have ended, it should have been hair against diaper.
Oh, that would have been cool. That would have been awesome. Either way, total humiliation on both guys. But I like that, Jammie. Very good booking.
Yeah, just put the diaper, you don't you have to take the trunks off, but just put the diaper over top of the trunks with the pacifier and the bonnet.
Right.
Because Michael wasn't going to lose that beautiful.
No, everybody knew that.
He had on
I would have walked into that show going, I can't wait to see Gordy in a diaper, because we all know Michael Hayes ain't losing that hair. We're going to continue on back to the ring. Masked Superstar back in there. He had a hell of a match with Bruce Reed, a hell of a confrontation, over 10-minute match earlier in the first hour, and he's back out here again defending his title, we'll pretend anyway, against Fred McKenzie, who is likely on Superstar's challenger list, I have to imagine. Total domination here by the Masked Man, who picks McKenzie apart on the mat. Gordon Solie suggesting that Superstar simply taking his frustrations out on McKenzie after his issues with putting away Bruce Reed earlier in the show. We see the swinging neck breaker, but Superstar picking McKenzie up at 2, then delivering that nasty left-armed lariat and the Cobra hold, as last time around we saw Byron Scott just simply call for the bell. This week, at least, referee Nick Patrick at least check McKenzie to make sure he's out before calling for the bell. Match goes about 3 minutes.
No, actually, I forgot to say this during the Bruce Reed match.
Yes.
I'm not sure Reed knew the match was over.
Okay.
At that point, because he kind of popped up pretty quick. And
from the Cobra?
Yeah, after the Cobra, okay. he seemed to pop up, pretty quick. And I just think maybe he thought it was supposed to be a pinfall instead of a submission, because it's not like he was passed out.
Right.
So I wonder if George Scott Jr. just screwed up the ending there a little bit and was supposed to make the 3 count. Instead, just said, "Oh yeah, that's it."
Well, he is a rookie referee,
and they got away from it real quick at the end of the match. Now, in this match, I don't know if he was taking a shot at George Scott Jr. or not, but Gordon talks about the great athletic background that Nick Patrick comes from and how his father was a great athlete.
Right, sure. Jody Hamilton, for those who don't know, the assassin was Nick Patrick's father.
Of course, Gordon's not about to say that, but...
No, you can't do that.
But it was a way to put him over.
Right. No, absolutely. Totally agree. Nick had his, time in the ring, too, off and on, a little bit there. As a wrestler, I mean. Obviously, as a referee. Yes. We're going to continue on. We've heard from Michael Hayes repeatedly, and now I believe it's the third time we're going to hear from the Masked Superstar this week as well.
I want to take a moment right now to talk to the national heavyweight champion, the superstar. It appeared to me that some of the frustrations that you must have felt in your match with Bruce Reed, you took out on this man, McKenzie.
Listen, I'll be the first one to admit that I underestimated Bruce Reed now. I could get out here and run him down and say he wasn't any good, say I beat a man in 5 or 10 minutes, which I didn't do. I think it took me about 12 minutes. But the fact remains is I did beat the man. He's a very, very tough competitor. And to tell you the truth, I don't think I want to get in the ring again in the very near future with Bruce Reed. There's a lot of other individuals around here that I'm itching to get in the ring with. And fellas, this championship belt means that you have to come after me now. I don't have to go searching any longer. I don't have to beg for matches, championship matches, because I'm the champion.
Well, Saturday night, of course, you're looking to gain another championship. I'm referring, of course, to the matches at the Omni Saturday night, August 29th. And, of course, it'll be at 8:30, and it will be Tommy Wildfire Rich, the Georgia title.
Tommy Wildfire Rich, you know, he makes me sick. He comes out here and says, Superstar has got a hard head. But it's not hard because there's any foreign object in my mask. It's hard because I'm a stubborn man. I'm coming after you, Tommy Rich. I had to hunt you down, had to embarrass you, open your head wide open. Only gave you 13 stitches. I wanted to give you more. But some of your friends came down and saved you. Now, for those people who don't realize, I already won a match that night in the Omni, and I volunteered to go in after that belt. But now it's going to be one match, and one match only. This belt's not at stake, Rich, but yours is. I'm coming to the Omni, and Tommy Rich, I'm going to be a stubborn man. I'm going to be a hard opponent, but I'm going to be the next Georgia heavyweight champion.
Just like Michael Hayes, you can never have enough mass superstar. However, here I go, however again. We are calling him by the wrong name. In Georgia, he is simply the superstar. You'll never hear him in Georgia calling the mass superstar.
I've heard him do it already, Jamie.
Really?
Yeah.
I have not picked up on it.
Yeah, no, it's both. It's been both. It's definitely been both.
Has Gordon said mass superstar? Because I've only
has in the past.
They called him superstar.
Yeah, no, Gordon calls him superstar more than mask superstar, but they have done mask superstar as well. I've heard both. I got
right past me.
That's totally cool. But I get what you're saying. Yeah, he was more often than not the superstar, especially in his prior run here against Wrestling 2 and, of course, all that good stuff. But yeah.
Because even in the Omni lineup, they're just calling him the superstar.
Right. Yeah, totally with you on that. So call him what you want, man. He's one of the greatest heels of all time. And the superstar here, we heard in the promo, he admits he underestimated Bruce Reed earlier in the show. But he made it a point to point out here that he did beat him at the end of the day, which is true. But he puts Butch over on the way out here in regards to this promo, kind of putting him over as a solid talent. As the superstar says, he is the national heavyweight champion, and he doesn't have to beg for matches. He earned the Georgia title match against Tommy Rich, and now Tommy Rich has no option but to put it on the line here at the Omni. And then the Masked Man going to address Tommy Rich's comments, insinuating that he has a loaded mask. Tommy said that's what busted him open, those 37 stitches. Superstar said he meant to give him 38. What a heel comment there.
Yeah, Superstar not going to put his title up on the line. But, hey, as Macho Man used to say, that's champion's prerogative.
Is that what he said? Yeah, like it, huh? As we continue on tag team action in the ring, Mr. Wrestling, we're going to get to see it on TV now.
Now we're talking.
There we are. We saw it on the house shows, but now we really get to see it here. Go check it out right now, youtube.com/Wrestling Grenade. Talking about the tag team of Mr. Wrestling 2 and Kevin Von Erich. Going to take on the team of the French Angel and Jose Medina here. And Kevin just looks amazing out there, laying everything in. Literally, Jamie. Even forcing Frank Morrell to take some full bumps on the mat. Great drop kicks by Von Erich. Not in the finesse department, but rather in the kick you in the face for real side of things. You got to love those drop kicks from Kevin Von Erich. Gordon notes in the matchup that Kevin actually broke the nose. We talked about this of Rick Ferrera earlier on. I wrote, yeesh. Grumpy 2 finally going to tag in, looking grumpier than ever. Letting Kevin do a whole lot of the dirty work here while 2 going to tag in, get in a few shots in between. Kevin, though, really showcased in this one, and he gets that body scissor roll-up on Medina. Going to put the baby faces over 7 minutes and 45 seconds. And I wrote, at least Wrestling 2 didn't come in to steal the pin.
Unless I have my matches confused here, please if you can watch this match along with the Ric Ferrera match, notice how pissed the Angel is, Frank Morrell, at the end of this match. He kind of like attacks Kevin again and like continues to hammer away on him.
But the match is over, right?
Until, is it George Scott Jr. again in this match?
I don't remember the ref.
Until he actually has to break him apart. I mean, Morrell is ticked. And I wouldn't want to be Kevin if they happen to get matched up again. I'm not sure if it was this match or the next show on the 29th, but Frank was not happy with the way Kevin worked that match.
I don't think I'd want to be Frank. Never mind Kevin.
I mean, hey, Frank's still here. I know he's winding down his career. He looks like a tough SOB if he wanted to be.
Yeah, but do you think Kevin even feels pain at this point in his life? I don't even know.
Well, it all depends if him and Michael Hayes had gone somewhere for breakfast or the night before.
Yeah, that too. As we go on, speaking of Michael Hayes, we got two more matches here on the show, including Michael Hayes. He's teaming with Tommy Rich for the first time on television, I do believe, taking on Bobby Garrett and David Sierra. A pretty solid-looking heel team here, Garrett and Sierra together. They've been training together, says Gordon Solie. Meanwhile, very unique situation on the babyface side as Tommy Rich teaming with the guy who had a bounty out on him not too long ago. But maybe Tommy already forgot about that, if you know what I mean, brother. But no real sign of dissension here or concern from either guy as they seem to be doing well as a tag team, Hayes and Rich. Quick tags, the babyfaces dominate this one as Michael Hayes goes over with the pile driver on Garrett, giving the Heroes the win in just 4 minutes time. Now, anybody that goes and watches this on my YouTube, they're going to say, where's the finish? Well, for some reason over the last week, they decided that there was a 30-second clip in this match that belonged to the WWE, and they forced me to remove the actual pile driver from the finish. So you get the whole match except for the pinfall, but it is Hayes over with the pile driver there on Garrett. Total domination by the babyfaces here, which I thought was unfortunate because I really thought the Sierra Garrett team had potential.
As I've said before, Bobby Garrett is one of my favorite enhancement guys, and if he was in a little better shape, I could actually seen him get a nice mid-card push somewhere.
Yep, I totally agree with that.
With the right partner, they could have pulled off that cowboy gimmick and maybe even held belts somewhere.
Right, yeah, and I know Garrett got a little bit of a push there and some of the Outlaws down there as Blackjack Bobby Garrett. But I agree with you. You probably needed to get in a little better shape to be taken seriously here on the level of Georgia Championship Wrestling. It's Freddie Miller out here by the end of the show to talk more about that most popular wrestler trophy, hyping that once again before we go off to our standby match to close out the day. It's Brian St. John taking on Dave Stanley. As St. John's sort of losing that look. He's kind of letting himself to go, I thought, but his wrestling ability's still there, Jamie, looking very crisp in the ring, but he doesn't have a lot of time to show it. So it's a quick belly-to-belly suplex, going to give St. John the win. As we close out the show, match only goes 1 minute and 8 seconds.
Yeah, St. John looked really good, but even Gordon didn't call that a belly-to-belly. I forget exactly what he called it, but I guess belly-to-belly wasn't invented by that point.
Right. I'm sure he called it a side salto or something along those lines. I have no idea what Gordon called it, but it was a belly-to-belly for those who know.
I miss the days of when a match ends and they say, oh, we got a standby match, and they're jumping in the ring right now. And this is going to happen 2 weeks in a row. Next week it's going to, spoiler, it's going to happen again with one of my favorite wrestlers at the end of the show.
Isn't it funny how it just started happening when Ole took over the book?
Very interesting.
Yes, indeed. All right, guys, that wraps up this week in Georgia Championship Wrestling. We're going to continue on and talk a lot more. We got another episode of TV upcoming. But right now, we're going to take a really quick WrestleCopia commercial timeout. Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Rasslin podcast, where we talk the territories, whether it's Jammie Ward with Georgia 81, Roman Gomez with the UWF in 1986, or Gene Jackson covering Memphis in 85. 3 projects going on right now over there at Regional Rasslin. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. Bob goes back in time each and every week, covering not just his career, but countless stories and interactions with hundreds of wrestling names spanning his 2 decades in the business. But that's not all. You can also check out the Pro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puroresu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met, from Apple to Spotify, Pocket Cast, and beyond. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Rasslin Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Rasslin Grenade. And why not subscribe to YouTube.com/Rasslin Grenade. And of course, now would be a fantastic time to become a WrestleCopia patron. I'm talking about that $5 all access tier over at Patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That address again, Patreon.com/WrestleCopia, where you get so many gifts for just $5, including all of my insanely detailed show notes for every episode of The Grenade Show, Regional Rasslin, and the Monday Warfare podcast. You'll also get early access to a lot of the podcasts here on the WrestleCopia brand, where you can listen days and sometimes as much as a week earlier than the rest of the listeners. We also offer remastered versions of the earliest episodes of The Grenade Show, covering the 1989 NWA project. Includes enhanced sound quality, plus new content and conversation never heard before. But that's still not all, guys. You also get at least a dozen digital downloads for your viewing and reading pleasure each and every month, plus random bonus video drops, and of course, the Patreon exclusive Watch Along series, covering many past WWF and WCW events. And if that's not all, videocasts, also now a part of Patreon. And for those who like all of their podcasts in one nice, neat little pile, the WrestleCopia Patreon also offers a Patreon exclusive Spotify account. You can actually go over to your Spotify with your WrestleCopia Patreon credentials. Instead of listening or downloading directly from Patreon, you can go over to Spotify, listen to all the latest shows, including all of the early releases. And you get all of that and so much more for just $5. No subscription, cancel anytime. Give it a try for a month, guys. I think you'll like the content that I offer, and every penny of it goes right back here into paying the bills. So if you're looking to support that next up-and-coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia. Help me pay some of the bills to keep the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and all of the great shows here up and running for the months and the years to come. All right, and we be back, guys. A lot more house shows this week before we get back to television. August 22nd in Gadsden, Alabama. Remember, Michael Hayes put that one over. Also, August 23rd in Gainesville, Georgia at the Georgia Mountain Center. Now, I don't have results for those shows, unfortunately, so we're going to move on. Also, August the 23rd, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Memorial Auditorium. It's Bruno Jr. over Ric Ferrera, broken nose and all. Kevin Von Erich over David Sierra. Mr. Wrestling 2 pins Professor Sonoda. Mike Sharp taking on George Wells, and no results for that match or the main event. Tommy Rich and Michael Hayes battling Terry Gordy and Jimmy Snuka, who will retain the belts. So we move on to August 24th, Augusta, Georgia, Bell Auditorium. David Sierra over Ric Ferrera. Bruno Sammartino Jr. defeating the French Angel. It's Steve-O over Professor Sonoda. George Wells downing Iron Mike Sharp. National Heavyweight Champion Masked Superstar over Mr. Wrestling 2, rekindling their old feud.
Oh, yeah. It's always great to see 2 and Superstar together again.
I love that stuff when those two were going at it.
2 being a cranky old man and Superstar lighting them up.
Yeah. I mean, they had some fun little angles and whatnot on TV. I love that. And it's kind of cool to see them here. But that is not the main event here in Augusta. Instead, it's the Georgia Tag Team Champions Gordy and Snuka over Michael Hayes and Kevin Von Erich on a DQ.
Yes.
There
I would have
go.
loved to have seen this match.
Yeah.
Now we're talking. But
Man.
You know what? Fans in Columbus had a great show there that night. I'm sorry, not Columbus, in Augusta.
Mm-hmm.
They had a great show. You're starting off with Sierra and Ric Ferrera. I mean, that is a great opener. And then you got Bruno Jr. learning at the hands of the Angel again. You know Steve-O and Sonoda was solid. And George Wells and Mike Sharp might have been match of the night.
I don't know. Well, I mean, looking at the matches that follow, I find that hard to believe. But I do. George Wells has really impressed me, and we're going to see a lot more from him on the next episode of TV before we get done here. I'm looking forward to getting to that. As we roll on, more house show results. August 25th in Albany at the Civic Center. No results there, so it's off to Columbus, Georgia, Municipal Auditorium, August the 26th. French Angel over Ric Ferrera. Brian St. John going to a draw with Bruno Jr. It's Kevin Von Erich over David Sierra. George Wells defeating Iron Mike Sharp. Texas Tornado Tag Team title match. Wow. As Georgia Tag Team Champions Gordy and Snuka lose to Michael Hayes in Wrestling 2 on a countout. Michael Hayes in Wrestling 2. Of all the odd teams here, this one doesn't really work for me like some of the other ones have.
No, I'd rather seen Kevin and two go at it as a tag team here.
Yeah, but kind of fun. Texas Tornado match, changing it up a little bit, but it still ends on a countout. The baby faces go over, but the heels will retain the belts. As we
got to imagine they probably just left.
Yeah, it's very possible they walked right out, absolutely, after they had their issues. And we have one more match here in Columbus, and it's the Georgia Heavyweight Champion Tommy Rich defeating the National Heavyweight Champion Masked Superstar, and of course the Georgia title, the only belt on the line there. So Tommy retains, and as does the Superstar as well. As we go on to Marietta, Georgia in the Cobb County Civic Center, August 27th, it's George Wells over Ric Ferrera, Steve-O defeating David Sierra, Kevin Von Erich in Wrestling 2, back again, teaming up over Mike Sharp and Brian St. John, Michael Hayes defeating Superfly Jimmy Snuka, and the Masked Superstar over Georgia champion Tommy Rich on a DQ. Another solid card top to bottom in Marietta.
Kevin and Mike Sharp in the ring at the same time. That has disaster written all over it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, could you imagine if we popped up on TV and Mike Sharp's wearing a nose guard or something like Virgil when Sid got a hold of him many years later? That would have been fun. See, we would have known, oh, Mike must have wrestled Kevin along the way this week. It would have been fun. As one more house show before we go back to TV, August the 28th in Hiawassee, Georgia at the Mountain Fairgrounds.
Love that name.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, it flows right off your tongue, even if it's spelt kind of, I don't know, just weird reading it, but it flows right off. I do have the matches. I do not have results. I apologize, guys, but I like to get in what I can. So in Hiawassee, it's Bruno Jr. and the French Angel. Wrestling 2 taking on Professor Sonoda. Steve-O going up against the new national champion, Masked Superstar. So Steve does get a rematch. And the main event there is Michael Hayes and Tommy Rich going up against Gordy and Snuka. So a fun show there as we roll on to August the 29th. It's more WTBS action this week. Gordon welcoming us aboard as we go off straight to the ring for tag team action. This week, Jamie, it's Mr. Wrestling 2 and George Wells teaming up to take on the team of David Sierra and Tony Russo.
Another one of my favorite guys.
Yeah, I wrote
great
right here.
enhancement talent.
Yeah, I wrote another fun heel team, Sierra and Tony Russo. Tony Russo, very underrated, really credible guy in the ring.
Again, in the right promotion, this team could have gotten over somewhere.
Yeah,
like maybe Portland.
Yeah, and that's a good call because Portland's a lot better than what I was thinking. So I was going to say maybe Tri-States and McGurk. Obviously they weren't going to be pushed in Mid-South, but those secondary type promotions, I could see Sierra and Russo be in good hands there. Or
the old Arizona promotion.
Yeah, absolutely. As the ring announcer here referring to Tony Russo's hometown of Milano, Italy. I believe that's Milan, but whatever. As Wells going to start out here with the stereo side headlock and flying head scissor takeover combo on both of his opponents. You just don't see that from a guy the size of George Wells, or not a whole lot of anybody here in 1981. As Russo going to try for a monkey flip throw on Wells, but George lands on his feet. He sticks the landing off of a monkey flip in this mini ring that you were talking about. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that he's the same guy that we're going to see at WrestleMania 2.
Right.
Putting in the tablet in his mouth so he could foam after Jake the Snake puts the snake in.
It was Damien.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And puts the DDT and everything. I mean, he was so fat and out of shape by that time. And right here, he just put together, and just like Bruce Reed, you could see something great was going to come from this guy.
Yeah,
but he never did.
No, it was great. I mean, he does that headlock, head scissors, double takeover at the same time. He gets monkey flipped here, and I did not see this coming. He lands on his feet. Again, not only is it a guy the size of Wells doing it, but you didn't see barely anybody doing things like this at all in 1981, especially in a ring where you don't have a lot of room to work. So I wrote super fast and agile is George Wells here in 1981. I think this might be his peak year because he's just looking amazing in there. Just real quick, going back to WrestleMania 2 and Jake, yes, George is definitely out of shape by that point, and it may be more of Jake's bumping than anything, but George, for the 3-4 minutes that they gave him the offense before it was the knee lift and the DDT, because that's all Jake did to score the win there. But I thought he was impressive there for the bumping that Jake was doing for him anyway. He was, busting out some things, but certainly not to this level.
No, I mean, I'll agree with you. I mean, he wasn't pathetic in WrestleMania 2, but however, just how great he looks here. I mean,
oh my God,
he could have been, instead of Reed getting that push down in Florida, you could have seen George Wells getting that push very easy. I mean, George Wells even steals a move from Bobo Brazil and headbutts one of the guys during this match.
Well, that's super agility there, the old Coco butt. But Wells finally taken over to the heel corner, Sierra tagging in, landing a drop kick as the heel's going to take over for a fun little heat segment in this match. And I was there for it. But Wells finally able to do what we will eventually come to know as the Morton Roll and make the hot tag out to Wrestling 2. And Wrestling 2 in, flying head scissors of his own on Tony Russo. And it's a lot easier to get up there when your opponent's 5'6" like Russo. But not taking anything away from Wrestling 2, busting out a flying head scissors.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, again, another great team. This must have been why they brought 2 back at this point. He's not getting the major push, but he's working with these guys that look like, and I'm going to put Kevin in that category, guys that are ready to take that next step into superstardom.
Right. Do you think
it worked for Kevin, didn't work for Wells?
Do you think walking into this too, knew he was going to do a flying head scissors, or did he just watch George Wells in there and say, I'm not going to let this guy show me up?
I think he just got excited.
Well,
and that, just no youngster's going to show Mr. Wrestling 2 up.
I'm telling you. Well, the fun thing about 2 here in these TV tag team matches, he's not in the ring very long. He always does a couple moves and right back out, tagging back to Wells here, who lands his flying shoulder tackle and his version of the knee lift, but that doesn't get the job done, so he tags back to the Masked Man, who then lands the $1 million knee lift on Russo, as Nick Patrick going to make the 1, 2, 3. Baby faces go over 6 minutes, 37 seconds. Fun match. Good way to open the show.
Nobody could do the knee lift better than 2.
No, definitely not. He certainly, Jake had a good knee lift, but it's a completely different style.
Completely.
As we're going to roll on. Hey, you're going to love this one. Up next, Gordon Solie standing by with the former national heavyweight champion, but I suppose he's still the current junior heavyweight champion. Here he is. It's Steve-O.
I want to take a moment right now to talk to Steve-O. Before we get into this conversation with Steve, I'd like to remind all of you that beginning next week, Georgia Championship Wrestling will be on the air every Saturday night from 6:05 until 8:05, and that, I might point out, is a permanent starting time. Steve-O is with me, and of course, here's a man who I've followed his career with a great deal of interest. He comes from an entirely athletic family. His dad's a former pro football player. He's got a brother who's a pro football player. Steve, of course, is in the sport that he really prefers above all, and that's one-on-one body contact. But I understand now that in your grasp for further knowledge, that you've been undergoing a rather secretive but intensive training regimen.
Well, that's true, Gordon. I guess no secrets well kept around you. I'm going to try to keep it now for a little bit longer. In professional sports, everyone tries to strive to improve himself constantly. And when I was teaching, I tried to, constantly put that thought into the minds of the students. When I was just starting professional wrestling, I started out, putting up the ring, refereeing, learning the profession from the ground up. And now, as you progress in life and progress in the sport, you have to continually improve. This is the approach I have always taken. Things have come down to professional wrestling where sometimes you become predictable. When you become predictable in the ring, people know what's coming up offensively and defensively. And now I am trying to improve myself, but come up with a new twist, so to speak.
Well, we're talking about this. Of course, here's a man who I guess a lot of people looking at him say, well, he's got this tremendous background, He is an accredited teacher. By the same token, you don't believe in sitting back on your laurels at all.
Well, no, you have to continue to try to improve myself. Also, it's nothing really unusual from any other professional wrestler. Everybody's out there trying to think of something they can do to make themselves more money, to make themselves more popular. And for me, the time has come.
Thank you so very much, Steve-O.
So, Jammie, I know you were looking forward to that Steve-O promo there. Gordon wanting to talk about the Olsenowski family. Steve's brother and father, both former pro football players. Steve undergoing secretive training right now, says Gordon. Very peculiar. But I got to tell you, Jammie, you were probably enjoying that Steve-O interview. But you know what I enjoyed? Was Gordon's announcement that beginning next week, September 5th, Georgia Championship Wrestling is back to 6:05, the new permanent starting time for GCW.
Except for the weeks that they got to start at 5:30 or 5.
You had to ruin it for me. Turner baseball, baby, and everything else.
But Gordon was really happy to hear that. I mean, I don't think it makes a difference when you're taping a show at 9 in the morning and you've been drinking vodka since 6 when you get off the plane. I don't think it really makes a difference what time the show is going to air.
Right. But yeah, it did a lot for me as a fan. It was the beginning of the year. They switched it over. What was it, to 5:35? I always wondered when it went back to 6:05, and it's confirmed here, September 5th, 1981, and I think it's going to stick to 6:05 for the duration.
I believe you're right. I mean, we'll get the odd 5:35 or 5:05 start, but for the most part, 90% of the time, it's 6:05 where it'll become a staple.
All right, guys, and before we get back to the ring for more action, right now we're going to go off to Freddie Miller, who's going to run down the upcoming Omni card later tonight.
Tonight, the Omni in Atlanta, 8:30, a sensational card. Such stars as Kevin Von Erich, Mr. Wrestling number 2, Steve-O, George Wells in these matches. 400-pound Chris Cannon against 300-pound Bruiser Brody. Georgia heavyweight title, Tommy Rich, champion against the Superstar. And a special challenge, 8th wonder of the world, Andre the Giant and Michael Hayes, the fabulous Freebird, against Snuka and Gordy. There are good seats available. That's tonight, the Omni, 8:30.
All right, Jammie, don't miss it. Be there. The Omni tonight, the main event, Michael Hayes and Andre the Giant taking on Terry Gordy and Jimmy Snuka.
You know what actually got past this, or I caught it and I forgot to say it when we were recapping the last show.
Yeah.
They actually had a snafu when they showed the picture of Andre and Michael Hayes. Underneath Michael Hayes, it says, the former Freebird.
Wow, okay. Interesting. I wonder who typed that one up.
But by this show, they corrected it.
Yeah, I'm sure Michael Hayes made sure that was correct.
The fabulous Freebird.
Right.
But in that show before, they had it up there 2 or 3 times. I mean, I guess it's possible. They followed it up with the next picture being Gordy and Snuka. Maybe that was supposed to be on top of
Gordy's name?
Terry Gordy's name, but somehow ended up on the screen before.
Okay.
But
I could see
for
that.
this show, they definitely corrected it. But it was just a little snafu.
Right. Well, I'm glad you caught it. That's what it's all about here, man. Just pointing out everything we possibly can. And right now we head back to the ring for the National Heavyweight Champion, Masked Superstar, taking on Bruce Gallagher. And after asking Superstar's credentials last week, Gordon somehow on his own, he now knows this week that the Superstar, his background, he had played football, track, basketball, and wrestling. He even has a master's degree in education. And let's not forget, also formerly a one half of the World Tag Team Champions. Yet Solie still doesn't know his identity, but he knows pretty much everything else about him.
See, this is why when they brought Gordon back to the NWA 8 years later, that they called Gordon an investigative reporter, because Gordon could get to the bottom of everything, and he got to the bottom of it this week. See, Big John Studd was hanging around last week, so Masked Superstar 2, he interviewed Big John Studd, and Studd just wouldn't give up the identity of this Masked Superstar, but told him everything else he needed to know.
Yeah, even his social security number. Jesus. As the masked champion meticulously picking apart Gallagher here, hits that swinging neck breaker, but pulls Bruce up on the 2 count. Then it's the running clothesline followed by the Cobra hold. And this week we're all the way up to checking the actual arm, raising the arm of Gallagher as Superstar going to pick up the win, 3 minutes and 10 seconds.
See, now that even confirms it even more that Mr. George Scott Jr. may have messed that finish up a little bit.
You think Ole watched last week and said, what the hell are you guys doing out there?
Very, very possible. I mean, Yeah, Ole likes perfection. So at this point, Ole likes perfection. As we get into 1984 and the Bug or whatever,
He
Mr.
settled.
JR, whatever the hell
He had to settle.
his name was, that was a different story. But at this point, Ole wanted perfection.
I did like Devil Blue. I guess I was one of the few, but I love Devil Blue. Devil
Blue was great, and it was a great name.
Yeah. I just always pictured Dusty doing comment. Devil Blue out there, baby. Devil Blue in the ring. Tony Marino, I think he was like 50,
Dusty,
but man, he was in great shape.
And Dusty should have kept him around.
That would have been cool. Yeah, good call, because Dusty did take over the book there. Could have kept him. Should have kept him.
Like you said, for no other reason, just say Devil Blue, baby.
Devil Blue, baby. As Masked Superstar picks up the win here, he leaves ringside, but Tommy Rich just happens to be joining Gordon Solie for an interview, so we get a little face-to-face encounter. Passing of the two champions. I wrote, who booked these two back-to-back, Jamie? It's almost like they wanted them to have an altercation.
Pure coincidence, right?
Oh,
Just
okay.
pure coincidence.
All right. I'll take your word on that. As we go off now, Gordon Solie standing by with the wildfire, Tommy Rich.
And a bit of a confrontation. I had asked Tommy Rich to come out after this match. And we almost had a confrontation over there between the Superstar and Tommy Rich. I want to take a moment or two to talk to Tommy Rich.
Let me ask you a question. I want to know why, big tough Superstar, boy, he's real bad. Go out there and take advantage of somebody like that. You know, why ain't you got the guts to put that title on the line? That's what I don't understand, Gordon. Seems like every time, Superstar, he wants a shot at the Georgia heavyweight title, but yet he ain't got the guts. He don't got the guts. He won't put the national title on the line. Well, Superstar, what I'm asking you, if you're so sure of yourself, why won't you put the title on the line? I don't care where it's at, Atlanta, Georgia, Columbus, Ohio, Huntington, West Virginia, Columbus, Georgia, it don't matter, Superstar. Anywhere in the country, all you got to do is name the time and the place, and I'll be there.
Well, there you have it. Certainly a wide-open challenge to the Superstar for that National Heavyweight Championship, and it does appear that he has been, since winning that title, sort of resting on his laurels a bit.
Yes, he has. He had defended it one time, Gordon, and the way it seems to me, he's just picking his opponents, like last week he's out here, I'll give Snake Brown a shot. He ain't giving nobody a shot. What I'm saying is, Superstar, if you're such a man, put the title on the line. Let's just really find out how bad you really are. Superstar, just like I told you before, Saturday night, that is party night in Atlanta, Georgia. So what I'm planning on is coming down to the Omni, giving you a good whipping, because just like I said, I ain't forgot about you busting my head. So I'm coming back for you to pay some dues. So Superstar, you better be ready tonight. And Gordon, in Columbus, Ohio, is going to be one of the first times Michael Mays and myself is going to be teamed up. I didn't think that'd ever happen, but it's happening in Columbus, Ohio.
It is indeed, and I certainly hope that all of you will make your plans. For those of you in Columbus, make your plans to be at those matches. And for all of you here in the Atlanta area, be sure to be at the Omni tonight at 8:30.
So Tommy Rich putting his Georgia title up against the Superstar tonight at the Omni. Tommy asking why won't Superstar put his national title on the line. Rich says that Saturday nights, it's a party night in Atlanta. I wrote, how's that any different than any other night for Tommy Rich? As Tommy also shilling the following day, he's going to be in Columbus, Ohio, teaming with Michael Hayes.
That's because Saturday night, the Peaches don't have to go to school the next... Oh, never mind.
Oh, man. Jeez. Hope you're talking about college.
Didn't say, never mind. Edit that out, Ray. Edit that out.
Yeah, sure. We'll work on that. As we hear from Tommy and we go straight off to the ring where he is in action. It's Wildfire taking on Ric Ferrera. Again, broken nose and all. And I guess if you want that prelim pay, that $20 as you said, I guess you got to play. As Tommy controls the majority of the matchup, Ferrera getting his knees up on the Wildfire splash and does manage to take control for a little bit here, even landing an atomic drop, but it doesn't even give him a 1 count. Ferrera then locking in a bear hug, but Tommy Rich fighting his way out with a hip toss. Tommy landing a drop kick, but he misses the second one. Ferrera then catching Rich's leg, looking for a Boston Crab, but Tommy going to spin his way out of the hold, and Wildfire applying a abdominal stretch, getting the submission win. Match goes 5 minutes and 26 seconds. Kind of an odd choice of a finish here. Tommy Rich scoring the win with the abdominal stretch.
Oh, that was a nice back and forth there right before the match ended. And it was good to see Tommy Rich win a match since it's been years and years I've been watching him win with the Thez press. It's good to see Tommy win with something different for a change.
Yeah, this just felt like a Steve-O finisher, though. I would have liked to see something a little better from the Wildfire, but I agree. I don't need that Thez press every time out, so good stuff here. And, I start thinking back. I don't remember Ferrera working a shit ton of the house shows, but he worked all week this week, and I have to wonder, is that Ole trying to find a way to pay him, some money to get that nose fixed?
Very possible. Either that or him and Ferrera go way back, which is a possibility also.
That's also always a possibility. As we continue on, we heard from Tommy Rich. We saw him in the ring. Now we're going to hear from the other side. Here is the National Heavyweight Champion, the Superstar.
Toward the Superstar regarding his National Heavyweight Championship. The fact is that a lot of the other competitors seem to feel that you are not defending that title. Admittedly, you only have to defend it once every 30 days.
There's a lot of individuals, and Tommy Rich is in the head of the list, and Steve-O, the ex-champion, wrestling number 2, George Wells. All these men say, through the matchmaker, they contact George Scott and say, we want a championship match for the National Heavyweight Championship against the Superstar. Now, I gave a directive to Mr. Scott last week, and I mentioned to you that I've made up my own list of potential matches. Snake Brown's on that list, Mike Fever, Bunk Harris. There's a long line. I think I mentioned 20 individuals. They're top contenders for my belt. On the bottom of that list, you find individuals like wrestling number 2, Tommy Rich, Steve-O, the former champion. Once you're knocked off the top, you got to go all the way down to the bottom of the ladder and work yourself on back up.
Well, of course, tonight at the Omni here in Atlanta, beginning promptly at 8:30, the Georgia Heavyweight Championship goes on the line. Now, Tommy Wildfire Rich is in the same posture once every 30 days, and yet
Tommy Rich is a lucky man. That is, until this evening, Tommy Rich, I have been waiting and waiting with you on my mind. Now, you made the boastful statement that you were out at the lake resting all week. You must need that rest. You must need the relaxation. You didn't look too good just now. Well, I haven't been resting. I put 3 people in the hospital this week, and you're going to be the 4th. Right here in the Omni, this belt's not at stake, but your Georgia Heavyweight Championship is. You're not going to be lucky 2 nights in a row. I've got one match and one man to think about. That's you, Tommy Rich. Your championship's at stake. I'm coming after you tonight. I've waited a long, long time, and I'm going to take your belt home right here in the Omni.
So Superstar running down some of the top credible challengers still, yet again, for the national title. Snake Brown, Mike Fever, Bunk Harris. And he's asked about Steve-O. What about Steve-O, Gordon Solie says? Shouldn't he deserve a rematch? And I love the response here. As Superstar says, once you lose a belt, you fall to the bottom of the ladder. I wrote, interesting viewpoint from a heel.
Normally, in nowadays wrestling, they get the guaranteed
rematch.
Title rematch.
Sure. Yeah, the clause.
However, at this time, I do have to agree with the Superstar that you do fall to the bottom of the list.
Wow.
Even Steve-O, but knowing the tenacity of one Steven Olszewski, he'll be back and he'll get his title match.
Okay. Fair enough. But I just love that. Again, articulate, but just totally asshole heel too. Hey, once you lose a belt, you fall to the bottom. I love that viewpoint there. It's great stuff by Superstar, who is coming for Tommy's Georgia title later tonight.
And Superstar also brings up a name that we haven't heard for a few weeks. Matchmaker George Scott.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He does bring him up, which was, he even referred to him as the matchmaker. Somebody should tell him that Ole's in charge now.
Well, Ole might be in charge, but hey, maybe George is still the matchmaker.
Well, also, let's be real. They're not going to
the matchmaker.
No, I was going to say, let's be honest. They can't announce that Ole Anderson's booking the towns. So
right.
I guess
and we got George Scott Jr. still here. So
right.
Hey, it wasn't a hostile takeover
if Charlie Lake
when the Colonel left and George Scott ended up taking over. That was a hostile takeover. That's not happening this time around. It was a nice takeover.
If the man that handed out the paychecks in Florida, Charlie Lake, can be referred to as the president of Mid-South Wrestling, then I guess George Scott can still be the matchmaker here in Georgia. Totally makes sense to me. As we continue
Absolutely not.
Back to the ring, Kevin Von Erich stepping in the ring against Jim Nelson, the future Slaughter's Private, as well as Boris Zukov. That Jim Nelson here. Is Kevin being billed as born in the Yukon and Yellowknife? I wrote, that was really random. Born up in the Yukon. What an odd place to announce him from. I didn't understand that. the logic behind it. I did Google it just out of curiosity. Apparently, Kevin was actually born in Illinois, and of course, we know he's a Dallas boy now. Just really weird to hear that Kevin was supposedly from the Yukon.
Gordon messes a lot of things up on this show. We'll get to something later. So, hey, somebody might have passed him. Might have been a rib. Maybe somebody passed him a little note. Hey, did you know Kevin was born in the Yukon when Fritz was wrestling back up there in the 60s?
Yeah, when like three people lived in the entire area.
Yeah, exactly.
So Jim Nelson also, according to Gordon, apparently a motorcycle enthusiast. And then that just started making my wheels turn in my head. I said, man, can you picture the Bolsheviks in one of those sidecar motorcycle gimmicks? Boris with the big furry hat on, riding sidecar to Nikolai. I wrote, Vince really dropped the ball there.
driving the momotorcycle in that
right.
one. You know that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Boris in the sidecar. And I just wrote,
furry hat and maybe a sword in his hand.
Vince really dropped the ball there. That could have really got over.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And now Vince is listening to this and say, damn, why did I do that?
I'm going to do it now, pal. I think he's got a lot of stock up for sale. Maybe he'll reinvent the Bolsheviks. We'll have to wait and see what happens there.
Hey, maybe you and I should put our money together. Maybe we can buy that stock.
Yeah. Or maybe like one stock, if that. As for my side anyway, Jamie. As we get rolling here, guys. Kevin Von Erich, Jim Nelson here. Good wrestling match between the two guys. Kevin, he kips up to his feet right out of a head scissors and delivers a standing drop kick. Man, is he good. As Jim Nelson holds up his end of the fight as well, landing a nice knee drop as Gordon informs us that Kevin, and this is really weird, and he does this repeatedly, Gordon Solie mentioning that Kevin lacerates easily. He has a skin condition. I wrote, okay. As Von Erich drops the future Russian and lands the big splash, scoring the win here for Kevin Von Erich, 4 minutes and 37 seconds. Did you catch that? Gordon doesn't just say it here. I think we get it again later. Talks about how you can notice the bruises immediately form on the back of Kevin as he hits the ropes, and he lacerates easily. It was really weird.
That's what happens. As I said earlier, you start drinking at 6 a.m. You start seeing it.
Yesterday at 6 a.m.
The way you want it. Oh, yesterday, 6 a.m. You know, whatever time before you boarded that little flight from Tampa to Atlanta.
Right. Well, we're going to
poor Gordon. Hey, but you know what? You and I jest. Gordon was a wonderful man.
I never got to know him, but I certainly enjoy his stuff here on TV. As we see Kevin in action, and now we go off to a promo with Gordon Solie standing by with Mr. Von Erich.
Well, we just watched Kevin Von Erich in an outstanding match against Jim Nelson, and Kevin, congratulations. I must say this, that I think Nelson started to give you a run for your money.
Well, he was a tough competitor. You know, one thing about wrestling here, I really love it because I've been winning my matches in a scientific type manner, and that's the way I've been brought up to win them that way, and everything's been going great. Going for me good here.
Well, it has been indeed, and I might just point out that Kevin is one of those two who is seeking that national heavyweight championship that the superstar seems to be just holding back on. Legally, he has 30 days with which to defend that title, but I think
just a second. Nobody cares. Nobody cares what you love, boy. You know, I know that you come from a wrestling family, boy, but nobody cares about that. And I know I've checked your records, boy. You've won 100 matches in a row without being defeated, but nobody cares about that. So why don't you just bug off, boy, and let some men do the talking?
You're starting to burn me, Gordy. I've been under it twice now, and you've interrupted my interviews. I'm not afraid of you guys. I'll take either one of you. You got belts, and I want both of them.
Listen, all you got to do is listen to us. It's not what you got to say, it's what we got to say.
That's right, baby, that's right. So why don't you just bug off? And, boy, if you want either one of us, it don't matter. It can be arranged.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I think that's quite enough. And obviously, I apologize, Kevin, for the interruption by these two.
No apology necessary, Mr. Solie.
Right, no problem.
No apology necessary because, you know, that's what it's all about.
Well, I can understand how you feel about that, and I may just say, too, that it'll be curious. I'm curious to see if either one makes sense.
I've been interrupted on here twice now, and I'm getting a little bit burned now.
Thank you so very much, Kevin Von Erich.
So it happened at the end of a program a couple weeks ago, and now once again, Kevin Von Erich confronted by Terry Gordy and Jimmy Snuka. And again, Kevin, not the greatest of promos, but that all changes when he gets interrupted here by the Georgia Tag Team Champions, as Gordy says that Kevin, he's won 100 matches in a row, but that doesn't mean nothing to Terry Gordy. Kevin calmly says that he's not afraid of either of the two men, and he points out that, hey, you guys both have belts, and I want both of them. And that's when I noticed, I noted in my mind that Kevin, they're tag team champions. You can't have both belts, but it is Kevin Von Erich, so who knows what was going through that mind.
Wait a minute. Kevin could have thought, it was a shoot, and he could have probably taken both belts by himself.
So you're telling me he would have issues with Frank Morrell, but he could take on Jimmy Snuka and Gordy 2-on-1?
Oh, yeah. Kevin was a badass.
Oh, okay.
Here anyway. Let's get this straight. Fritz raised him right. Respect your elders. So he backed down a little bit from Frank.
I'll tell you
but he's not going to back down from Jimmy Snuka or Terry Gordy. Besides, him and Snuka would probably share the same. Well, never mind. I better not go there.
Yeah,
too many references along those lines.
Yeah. I totally get you. But you talk about respecting your elders, and Von Erich here. At one point, he forgets Gordon Solie's name. He's searching for it, and as you can see the wheels spinning, he's trying to remember, who the hell am I talking to here? And he totally forgets Gordon Solie's name, and I wrote, oh, Kevin.
I'm almost 58, and Kevin and I have like the same wavelength going on at this time.
Okay. Well,
I forget half the stuff I'm going to say, too.
Well, that's, I'm sure for a completely different reason.
That's something I had in common with Kevin Von Erich, even though he's 22, 23 here.
Well, hopefully, he'll figure Gordon's name out as we head back to the ring for tag team action. Tag team champions Gordy and Snuka taking on a rookie, Keith Larson, brother of Don Kernoodle, and he's going to be teaming with Denny Brown, the future NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion. As the heel's going to dominate Larson throughout the matchup, Keith, he does show some fire here, throwing some shots at Gordy, stunning the big man, but Snuka tags in and the heels remain in control. Then finally, Denny Brown going to tag in 4 minutes into the matchup, and Gordy immediately landing a suplex, and then it's Snuka off the top rope with the big splash, and Gordy back in with a pile driver for good measure. Going to give the heels the win, 4 minutes and 33 seconds.
Yeah, that's how to do a squash match.
Totally.
When you have Gordy and Snuka involved. And then here, once again, I know we've seen a couple guys making their debuts. This is Keith Larson's debut, but he is in a 2 or 3 classes above a couple of the other guys that we've seen.
Oh,
and why
sure.
wouldn't he? He was trained personally, him and his brother, by Ole Anderson.
And Don had a hell of a background. I don't know Keith's background in amateur wrestling, but Don had a hell of a background, period, as an athlete. And so Keith Larson looks good as a rookie here, much like David Haskins in 1985 Memphis as a rookie, looking better than some of the other guys that maybe have had a few more matches that likely were never trained, at least properly.
And at this point, Denny Brown's a good hand. I mean, he's pretty early into his career also. I
got more on Denny Brown before we get done here this week, by the way, Jamie. But right now,
so do I. I think we're going to talk about the same thing.
Probably. And so we're going to go on right now, though. Gordon Solie standing by with the tag team champions. Here they are, the Superfly and Bam Bam Gordy.
Again, that they are indeed an extremely dangerous combination. And I must admit, gentlemen, that your victory certainly was impressive.
Did you see that, Gordon Solie? That right there goes to prove that we can't get no competition around here. You know, I know Michael Hayes, he went out and he got Andre the Giant to be his partner. But that's still no competition because, you know, Andre the Giant, he's got the size and he's got the strength, but he hadn't got the speed and he hadn't got the agility. He's too clumsy.
Well,
see what I'm saying, Gordon?
Gentlemen, first of all,
and in the Omni.
Let's talk about the Omni tonight. You say the man doesn't have the agility and all. May I point out to you that Andre the Giant has played soccer, rugby. He moves exceptionally fast.
I don't care, Gordon Solie, a man that big, he's got to be clumsy. And you know, look at us, look at our size. We got the strength. We got the speed, we got it all. And in the Omni, Andre the Giant, you're gonna fall, boy. And every time you're going to get up, you're going to fall again. Till we finally get rid of you. And then, Michael Hayes, we got something for you in the Omni, boy. After we get rid of the big goof. And he is going to fall, Michael Hayes. and you ain't going to have nobody to hide behind in the Omni. We're going to get rid of you, boy.
It all happens tonight, 8:30 at the Omni.
All right, once again, Gordy talking that tag team matchup later tonight in the Omni. Gordy says that Andre the Giant has no agility. Being that big of a guy, he's got to be clumsy, and he stands no chance against the tag team champions. Gordon pointing out that, hey, Andre used to play soccer and rugby. Terry states again that the big goof will fall, and that Gordy and Snuka will then take out Michael Hayes permanently. So we know their game plan now.
Yeah, see, Gordy should have said that was 300 pounds ago, Gordon.
Well, I don't know if Gordy thought that fast yet on the promo, but yeah, good call there, Jamie.
But Gordy's very solid at this point with the interviews. I mean,
oh yeah,
he really
he's
has
totally fine.
He really has no choice. What are they going?
We can hindsight. Sure, we can hindsight promos all day. Oh, they should have said this. They should. It would have been more funny if they said that. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, but no, I thought he did good here. And obviously, their plan of strategy at this point, or their strategy of attack, is to take Andre out and then do the 2-on-1 on Michael Hayes and end his career. As we continue on with the show, Steve Olszewski in the ring. It's old Steve-O taking on Jose Medina. And of course, Steve-O from Medina, Minnesota, wrestling Jose Medina here. So I thought that was a little funny. But Steve, under an extensive training regimen, says Gordon Solie, but he promised not to mention it here. But he brings it up anyway, Jamie. As Steve-O controls the matchup, Medina manages to catch Steve with a drop kick, but he misses an elbow drop. Is Steve-O going to fire up with a weird karate chop to the gut, and then his trusty airplane spin? But he's not done yet. Wait, what's this? Steve-O going to the top rope? High cross body. But it's actually Steve's legs that actually land on top of Medina. Not the prettiest of high cross bodies, but it gets the job done. Match goes 5 minutes and 18 seconds.
Yeah, he was trying out to be the third high flyer at that point. He was hoping Vern would be watching, but I guess Vern wasn't watching that episode.
No, apparently not. Steve-O does pick up a win. No more sleeper hold, he learned from Japan, though. So this new training regimen must involve some sort of high flying ability. We'll see how well that works out for Steve as we continue on with the program.
You know, that could be the regimen. He might be hanging out with Michael Hayes.
Yeah, that might explain why he was slightly off on that crossbody as well.
And I think before this taping, if Gordon wasn't already, tasting on his own, I'll bet him and maybe Michael Hayes hung out on Friday night because Gordon is really rough on this show.
Yeah, he's having a rough day.
He's saying all kind of things he shouldn't be saying.
Gordon does remind us, though, in regards to the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, he says here that should the title ever change hands, the new champion will have to immediately continue to fulfill the contractual obligations of the prior champion. And I wrote, well, that was random.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even seen Dusty, for about a month at this point.
It's been a few weeks. I don't remember when he finished up on those house shows, but it certainly hasn't been the last couple weeks. It just really came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and then they're making a statement, 2020 revisionists, watch him back, however you want to, cliche you want to use. Mm-hmm. Right there, that tells you what's about to happen in about 3 weeks.
For sure. I'll tell you what's going to happen right now on the TV program. We're going to go back to the ring for tag team action. Going to see Bruno Sammartino Jr. team with Big Chris Cannon. We'll talk more about him in just a moment. They're going to take on the team of David Sierra and Jeff Sword of the old Devils duo. As we get our first look here at Chris Cannon, the future King Kong Bundy, by the way, guys. He's here in Georgia, going to be scheduled to take on Bruiser Brody later tonight in the Omni. As the match gets going, we're going to see a crisscross with Bruno Jr. and Sierra leading to a crossbody and a 2 count for Sammartino. And then in comes the big man, Chris Cannon, who's rocking some really long hair here and even some facial hair and sideburns. Really odd to see Bundy like this, but he can move pretty good here in 1981. Even working the arm over and drops a big leg across the arm. I had to pop for that on Jeff Sword. And Sword and Bundy both working the Knoxville territory, so they both probably likely drove down together for this. As Sierra able to cut the future Bundy off by going to his eyes, but works him over in the wrong corner. Cannon able to tag back to David Sammartino, who comes in moving quickly on the offense, wears Sword down, and then Cannon back in with a clothesline, and the big splash on Jeff Sword gets a good pop from the crowd, and the 1-2-3 baby faces go over 5 minutes and 17 seconds.
Yeah, it was a good debut for Cannon, but if you're going to be facing Brody at the Omni, I think they should have had him probably in there in a handicap match.
I like that idea.
Been out 2 guys at once.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. made him look more credible as a opponent for Brody, because we had never seen. Yeah, he's a big dude, but we had never seen him until right here, right now, and he's working a tag team match. But I look at that team, King Kong Bundy and David Sammartino, and we see what they look like here in 1981. And I wrote, did you ever think in 81 that we'd see these two guys on the very first WrestleMania?
Yeah, we never thought you'd see them on a supercard.
Right. So it's kind of fun, though, to see those two here teaming up as we continue on. Gordon Solie interviewing Mr. Wrestling 2 and Wildfire Tommy Rich. They're once again talking about that most popular wrestler contest. And, of course, Grumpy 2 is back in Georgia, Jamie, so I'm sure you're happy about that.
In their match, and I want to take a couple of moments right now to talk to two men who certainly are more used to having their names in the victory column than in the loss column. Referring, of course, to Wrestling 2 to my right and Tommy Rich, the Georgia heavyweight champion, to my left. And Tommy, I might just point out that this most popular wrestler contest, we're certainly getting a tremendous response from all of the people, and I might just point out that you're getting quite a vote.
Well, thank you very much, Gordon. And I'd like to thank all the people out there, just like I've said time and time again. Without them, Tommy Rich wouldn't be where he's at, and I just want to thank all of them. It's good to be here in Georgia.
And obviously, it goes without saying, of course, the gentleman to my right has always been certainly one of the most popular wrestlers in competition.
Thank you very much, Gordon. Those postcards are coming in just so fast, man. I'm just so grateful for all those postcards and you wonderful fans out there. Keep up the good work, because I'm really looking forward to walking out of here with that big trophy in my arms. It's going to be a great victory for me.
Well, it is indeed for whomever wins it. I might just point out, if you want to send your postcards in naming your favorite wrestler, send it to 100 Techwood Drive, Northwest Atlanta, Georgia, 30303. Let's talk further to the Georgia heavyweight champion about that title. I must admit, you have certainly been a fighting champion.
Well, thank you very much, Gordon. Just like I said before, I'm the people's champion, and anytime, just like I said, I've got an open contract, and I told the superstar anytime, anywhere, any place he wants a match, I'm more than glad to give him one.
Well, obviously, there are a lot of other people who are looking to gain that title, and I know you have...
I'd like to say this. I'd like to say he has been a good champion, but he hasn't wrestled me yet.
Well, I can understand that, and obviously the two of you are very, very close friends, but nonetheless, once you step into that squared circle, that friendship ends. But it's a pleasure to have with me the Georgia heavyweight champion, Tommy Wildfire Rich, and Mr. Wrestling number 2.
As Wrestling 2, as he did earlier on that commentary, talking about his upcoming victory in the voting. He's already got it in the bag, he thinks, as the Masked Man says that Tommy Rich, he's a good champion, but he hasn't wrestled me yet. I wrote, how is this guy a babyface? What a promo.
2 is 2, baby. That's all I can say.
It's like, I already know I'm winning this contest. And by the way, Tommy Rich, you're a good champion, but you haven't wrestled me yet.
I wonder if they just maybe this was kind of like a little tryout for maybe 2 turning heel.
I don't know, but it certainly worked in Mid-South.
Never pulled the trigger on it.
Yeah, it certainly worked in Mid-South. I'll tell you that. Totally believable heel there was Wrestling 2. And they never do pull the trigger here, but grumpy as ever he is the Masked Man as we continue on. Freddie Miller going to run down some upcoming events, and then it's back to the ring. We saw Chris Cannon, and now we're going to see the other side. It's Bruiser Brody in singles action taking on Mitch Barlow as we see the old Tree of Woe, and they got him in the Tree of Woe, baby. Bruiser Brody has Barlow upside down, lots of stomping a mud hole in him, walking it dry, and then it's the big scoop slam, setting him up for the knee drop. Brody going over in 2 minutes and 29 seconds.
Just like we said with Kevin and 2, you want to see something that looks real? Bruiser Brody looks real.
Each and every time.
Oh, my God.
Poor Mitch Barlow. As
another name that I don't remember seeing as enhancement talent before. Right. I wonder who was supplying some of these guys.
Yeah.
Maybe they were from Olie's school and Olie decided, you know what? Here, I got their money out of them. Let me put them on TV and I don't have to deal with them again.
Yeah, I gave you guys your shot. You're in there against Bruiser Brody, hoping that maybe they won't come back next week.
And Olie hasn't told him it's a work yet. Just go in and see what you can do.
Well, I mean, very impressive here is Bruiser Brody, but I don't know if he's going to get King Kong Bundy up in that Tree of Woe, though it would have been a hell of a sight to see had he done that. So we're going to roll on another promo here this week. This time it's Michael Hayes, and as promised, he is in studio. Here he is, the 8th wonder of the world, Andre the Giant.
Well, you hear the music. That indicates only one thing. The original, fabulous fabulous Freebird, Michael Hayes, and look who he's got with him.
Baby, I said I would get my man.
Easy. Yeah,
it took a little while, but I got the man here, and if you notice, he is feeling nasty. You see, he got the shirt unbuttoned. Let me get my jacket. Oh, yeah. He got the grubby face. I love it. He ain't gonna shave. Tell him what you gonna do, big baby. He gonna get a hold of baby Huey.
Well, now, all right, obviously here.
Ready? I got my man, you understand?
Very, very confident Michael Hayes, a fabulous Freebird, moving out with the eighth wonder of the world, my good friend from Grenoble, France, Andre the Giant, 7 feet 4 inches tall. Averages around 450 pounds, depending on...
485 pounds.
Now up to 485, and you haven't grown any shorter, that is for sure.
Good. Even after 2 months in the hospital, I'm more than very good, and I'm ready to wrestling some different way. Because they want to wrestling dirty, I go to wrestling dirty too, because I got to show you I can wrestling dirty anytime I want.
Well, all right.
What do?
Let's start then with tonight in the Omni, because of course...
Wait a minute, before we go to the Omni, let's go somewhere and drink some Tennessee whiskey and get right.
How many gallons you got?
As many as you want to do, baby, because tonight in the Omni...
I want 2 barrels.
I've been waiting for this for 6 long weeks. And I tell you, you say you got a surprise? Ooh, la, we got something for you. But when I get it, everybody's gonna know just exactly what I've been talking about and just exactly what I've been waiting for. And I just want to say this to you, since you are kind enough to do what you're doing for me. I know you don't like me, but you're doing it anyway. In Huntington, in Columbus, anywhere, I will be watching your back.
I just want you to sit in that corner and give me that whiskey and let me do the
nasty, baby. Fantasia. Tonight in the Omni, baby. Andre and the Freebird gonna fly.
There are gonna be some dues paid tonight at the Omni here in Atlanta.
So Andre apparently gonna get a hold of baby Huey, says Michael Hayes, as Freebird Fantasia getting nasty tonight in the Omni.
You know, it's weird. You can watch something and believe for 40-some years how it happened that night.
Mm-hmm.
And then you watch it back and you realize, you know what? It wasn't the way I remembered it. I remember that interview with both Andre and Michael Hayes coming out with a bottle.
Wow, okay.
Of
Jack. Maybe could they have done
it? Michael might have had a bottle of Jack. Andre had like a bottle of wine or something.
Okay.
And I can envision it. But yet here I'm watching it back and I'm thinking, where's the bottle of wine that Andre's drinking?
And I was going to say, maybe you saw it on the best of.
For 43 years, that's the way I saw it. There we go. Unless it was something I saw on best of.
But then I was going to say that's not likely because the best of aired after. The Omni is on Saturday this week.
So unless it was leading into for the Brody Andre match in Columbus. I mean, but I've envisioned that interview all these years, and that's not the way it happened.
That's crazy. Well, if that does exist out there, I want to see it because I want a screen cap of that. I'm going to use that for like an icon somewhere because I would love to have Michael Hayes and Andre the Giant with bottle in hand as we head back to the ring.
I swear, if it wasn't that interview, it was during their match that that's coming up shortly.
I'll tell you when it wasn't. It wasn't when Andre fired the Freebirds from WWF. That's for sure.
No.
Oh, man. We got tag team action in the ring here, Jamie. George Wells and Steve-O teaming up this week, taking on Jim Nelson and Denny Brown. I wrote question marks against Denny's name here. We're going to talk about why in just a moment. But he's rocking an a Native American style wrestling boots out here. Got tassels on him with jet black hair and a mustache. Like a generic.
He just wrestled a few matches ago.
Right. He looks like a generic blackjack. I wrote weird look as Gordon keeps referring to him as Denny Wolf throughout the matchup.
But he also calls him Denny Brown.
He does.
In the same move.
Yeah.
I forget exactly what the move was.
No, you're right.
He says, I think he says, Wells grabs Brown and slams Wolf.
Yeah. It goes.
Gordon had a rough day, man.
He did. I don't even know where Wolf came from, unless he was just looking at the moccasin style boots and just came up with like I don't even know what was going on.
I think the name Wolf is more likely than Brown because we know that wasn't Denny Brown, and
right.
You're not about to have two guys named Denny Brown. But
Right.
for the first half of the match, he calls him Brown. Well, it's almost as if like maybe Ole came out and said, "Hey, Gordon, it's Wolf." And then he just went back and forth the rest of the match.
Well, I don't know if Ole did it because I don't see Ole anywhere on the show, and I feel like he would have put himself on TV had he been there, which we will see in the years to come. But somebody, yeah, you're right. I don't know what goes on.
Maybe
here.
George Scott.
And I want to go back to the beginning of the match where I said I put question marks next to the name Denny Brown because you just made it very clear that this is not Denny Brown, but some sort of I'm not really sure what this guy was going for nor who he is, but he is in the matchup as Gordon all over the place with the name here. Steve-O with a weird chop to the side of Brown. Whenever Gordon calls him Brown, that's when I write Brown, so I'm having fun with the write-up here. George Wells with an impressive big gorilla press slam before Jim Nelson tagging back into the ring. The heel team, they do manage to take control of Steve-O. Imagine that. But the Heroes manage to regain the momentum, taking turns working a side headlock as George puts him away with a backdrop and a splash out of nowhere. It's almost like they told him to go home because George just delivers a splash and into the match. Match goes 6 minutes and 21 seconds. And the heels, they don't seem to want to quit. They attack the baby faces post-match, but then it's easily thwarted.
That's something you don't see all the time either. But once again, George Wells looking like Superman here.
Mm-hmm. For sure, George Wells has just looked tremendous the last couple. I'm not sure when he leaves, but I'm enjoying him while he's here. As we go off now, we're going to hear once again from the Georgia Tag Team Champions. Here they are, Gordy and Snuka.
I must say that I have to admire both these men for some very, very specific reasons. Because I don't think either one of these men really know the meaning of the word fear.
Hey, that's right. You know, heard Michael Hayes out here talking, and you know he's really got the nerve standing out here calling people names. You know, Michael Hayes, I'm far from being a baby boy. I'm far from being a baby, and as a matter of fact, I'm all man. And this man standing beside me right here, he's all man. And you put us together, two men together, we like to get nasty. You know, I heard you out here talking about getting nasty. And you're saying Andre's going to get a little nasty too. Well, baby, there's nobody, and I mean nobody, that can get as nasty as the Superfly and the Master of Disaster. And like I said, boy, I'm far from being a baby.
Well, first of all, tonight at the Omni, you and Superfly Snuka going up against Michael Hayes and Andre the Giant. Now, surely, do you honestly think you got a chance against Andre the Giant?
Hey, like I said before, and like I'll say again, Gordon Solie, it's like this. The man's too big. He might have the size, he might have the strength, but he hasn't got it all. He hasn't got the size, the strength, the speed, and the agility. So tonight in the Omni, the big man's going to fall. Everybody in Atlanta going to think there's going to be a big explosion when he hits. But it might not happen just once. It's going to happen a bunch of times, because every time he gets up, the big man's going to fall. And then Michael Hayes, you're going to be left all alone, and we're going to get on you, boy, so bad. And it's going to be worser than your face being wrapped in a mat. It's going to be maybe an arm broke right here in the Omni tonight.
Well, we're going to find out. Here's a complete rundown.
Tonight, the Omni in Atlanta, 8:30.
Jumping somebody from behind, but that is not the character of Andre the Giant, that's for sure. The winners, Snuka and Gordy.
So Gordy reiterating what he already said. The big man Andre will fall tonight. And then Michael Hayes, it's going to be worser for you, boy. Worser, Jamie.
Well, Gordy tells it how it is.
That's Southern talk there. Worser. That's my grandma talking to me. It's worser. I love that.
I've heard that term a few times.
I'm sure.
It's worser.
It is worser. It gets better, though, because we head back to the ring for tag team action involving Gordy and Snuka. They're taking on the duo of Rick Benefield and Don Gilbert. And Snuka apparently...
Not Gas House.
No, not Gas. I didn't say Doug Gilbert. I said Don Gilbert. Gordon's likely to...
Don Gilbert, okay.
Yes, Gordon's likely to call him pretty much anything at this point in the show. He even says that Jimmy Snuka, of all people, apparently graduated from college. I find that hard to believe.
Way.
That's what he says. In the state of Hawaii. And he was a great amateur boxer as well. And I wrote, do you think any of the things coming out of Gordon's mouth are really true? I don't just mean about Snuka. I mean about everyone in general this week.
Who's feeding Gordon all this stuff this week?
Yellowknife in the Yukon.
He's really coming up with some wild stuff.
Yeah, he was really having some fun today. Or somebody was having fun with him, I'm not really sure, as the heels easily control their foes in this matchup. And then we see Michael Hayes and Andre the Giant arrive ringside, causing a distraction with the heels scouting their opponents for later tonight. And we see lots of jaw-jacking back and forth between the baby faces on the outside, the heels in the ring. Andre and PS having some words there. But the champions continue their dominance on the offense in the ring as Gordy lands the pile driver and covers his opponent right in the face of Hayes and Andre, the tag team champions, getting the win 7 minutes and 15 seconds. And then post-match, we see the heels slowly, cautiously exit the ring, walking backwards to the locker room or whatever the hell's backstage there at Techwood Drive. But they keeping their eyes on their upcoming opponents tonight, leaving ringside, backing their way out of the studio.
And something that's really impressive there, take a look. Andre from the floor is taller than the top rope.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I mentioned earlier when you were talking about the shortness of that ring. It wasn't just short in size as far as across goes.
Yes.
Yeah, that apron, man, it was like a step, literally a step. The first step on your stairs.
And notice Michael's got the big heels on, so he doesn't look as short to Andre.
Everybody else trying to make Andre look bigger, but Michael Hayes trying to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Only Mr. Purely Sexy as we go off now.
Can you imagine the fun? I mean, look at the crew that's on this show and imagine all them going out after the show.
If kayfabe wasn't a thing, I would have loved to have seen a lot of these guys meet up.
Even just on the face side.
No, I get you. Tommy Rich, Michael Hayes, and Andre.
Oh. Michael Hayes, Kevin Von Erich, and Mr. Wrestling too.
Yeah, right. And Steve-O too, right?
And somebody has to be the voice of reason.
Somebody has to be.
Steve-O would be there to keep
the designated driver.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But imagine the time they had in Hotlanta that night.
Oh my God! Yeah, look at all of the after the Omni. Oh my God!
And Snuka thinks he's a face, so he could probably just blend right in.
It's possible. Hey, brother. Yeah, I mean, he went to college. He knows what's going on here. As we go off now, Gordon Solie standing by with Bruiser Brody.
Well, I wanted to have a few words with Bruiser Brody, and I guess...
Gordon Solie, you see what I have here? I have the official ballot box for the most important and favored wrestler in the United States. Now let me show you something. All this talk about Tommy Rich, Wrestling 2, let me tell you something. When the ballots are cast, everybody, and I mean everybody, knows that it'll be me who wins the most favorite wrestling contest. Now, the second point I want to make sure everybody realizes is you don't see Cowboy Mulligan hanging around. And you won't see him hanging around no more. Because a week ago, I put him in the hospital in Roanoke, Virginia. So right now, the thing between Bruiser Brody and Blackjack Mulligan is over. It's finished.
Well, tonight, you've got Chris Cannon in the Omni, over 400 pounds.
Let me tell you something. I got 400-pound Crippler Canyon tonight, and I got Andre the Giant in Columbus, Ohio. Now, when I went over to the NWA wrestling office and stole this ballot box, I had two reasons in mind. That was to take both of those great, big, fat, overstuffed excuses for wrestlers and stick them in what I call my homemade coffin. When I get done with Crippler Canyon, I'm going to beat him up, and I'm going to tuck him over here in this half. And then I'm going to take this big casket with me all the way to Columbus, Ohio. I'm going to beat the you-know-what out of that big giant, and I'm going to stuff him in the other half of this box. I'm going to slam the lid closed, and I'm going to take it over to the local sewer and drop it in with the rest of the slop.
What can I tell you about that, man? He is something else again. Here's our ring announcer.
So Brody bringing a prop out. My wife likes to call these things props. He's bringing a visual effect, if you will, out with him this week. A storage chest, his homemade coffin. He says you don't see Cowboy Mulligan hanging around here anymore, Jamie. He put him in the hospital in Roanoke, and their feud is now over. Putting an end to Mulligan is Bruiser Brody here in this promo. And tonight, it's Chris Cannon's turn. And Andre the Giant tomorrow in Columbus, Ohio. There's no way Cannon or Andre are fitting in this storage chest.
No, but the best part of this interview is he brings it out and he tells Gordon how he went to the NWA office and stole this out of the NWA office because it's the official ballot box. And he opens up the box and he throws out like a rubber arm or something out of the box first.
That's where they got that Mae Young pregnancy angle from now. Okay.
It very well could be. And then he pulls out the one ballot in there and it says Bruiser Brody, complete with the Y underneath the D.
Yeah, that's right. I totally
fit it all the way.
It was
across.
great. It's like a kid, when a kid's writing across the paper and the word doesn't fit. And so they just take the final letters and write it underneath. And it was hilarious because it says Bruiser Brod. And then you're right, the Y is literally underneath the D in Brody. It's hilarious.
And then he shifts gears and says, you know what, I'm going to use this. And after I beat Cannon tonight and I fold him up and I put him in this half of it, tomorrow night in Columbus, Ohio, after I beat that big stupid giant, I'm going to squeeze him in this half and then I'm going to bury the thing.
Oh, you guys heard the promo. You guys go check it out on YouTube. Really fun stuff. Brody was a badass man, but he knew how to have some fun. That's for sure.
And Brody's another guy. He's basically only working TV. He never works the house shows. He worked maybe Columbus. That's about it, and maybe a Columbus, Georgia, or an Augusta. But he wasn't doing the small towns.
Yeah,
because he was working in Knoxville at the time.
Yeah, and apparently Roanoke as well. They continuously mention Roanoke, which I know was kind of a joint city there when Blackjack was running Knoxville with Crockett. So. Yeah, absolutely. There's a few guys that are popping up here. So Brody's helping out Ole a little bit by bringing in some of this talent. Jeff Sword we saw here, but also Chris Cannon. Big John Studd has been working there, which is why he's not on this TV, actually. He's working Knoxville TV this morning, and then he's heading off to the Omni later today. So, kind of interesting. We got 2 more matches for you guys here this week on TV before we close out. It's Mr. Wrestling 2 teaming with Kevin Von Erich, taking on Professor Sonoda and Ed Timms. As Wrestling 2 going to start out this time around with Sonoda. Solie selling Sonoda that he has adapted to the American catch-as-catch-can style, mixed with his martial arts. Gordon also pointing out that he wears boots. So I guess that's in reference that...
Well, so does Kevin at this time.
I guess so, but I don't know what Gordon's referencing here because he's Japanese. It's a big thing that he's wearing boots. I don't know what he's supposed to wear. Wooden sandals? What is this, 1952? Well,
I guess in Florida, all the Japanese wrestlers that have been through there, Gordon just assumed none of them were wearing boots.
No, good call. Good call.
I mean, Mr. Saito wore socks.
Mr. Saito can do whatever he wants.
The original Meng.
Yeah, for sure.
Or Haku.
So it's Wrestling 2 and Kevin Von Erich back in the ring here once again. Kevin with another nasty drop kick. This time it's on Sonoda. And this matchup as the baby faces then work over Timms. Sonoda, though, coming back in, eating a Wrestling 2 knee lift, and then Tim's going to catch one as well. Kevin Von Erich then tagging in up to the top rope, looking for a reverse flying splash off the top, and he actually slips here, but still sticks the move, and it looked great. So even though he slipped off the top rope, still lands that reverse flying splash, giving the Heroes the win, 5 minutes and 34 seconds.
Yeah, just like I said about George Wells, Kevin just looks awesome here. This show is hitting, with talent-wise, is hitting on all cylinders.
For sure. As we got time for one more matchup. We saw one last week, and again this week, it's another standby match.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Kevin's hardly even out of the ring before. Go ahead.
We got to get him in here. It is indeed.
Oh, okay.
Iron Mike Sharp Jr. And I did that for you, Jamie. Taking on Jerry Mahoney.
Watch the tape and you see Sharp more or less running into the ring. Kevin's leaping over the top rope toward the fans, and Mike Sharp is running into the ring.
Sharp's making sure he's getting his shtick in here, as he is now a heel, full-time heel in the territory, is Sharp, showing off his power, tossing Mahoney down to counter a top wrist lock, and then launching Mahoney across the ring when Jerry locks in a side headlock. So throwing him off, tossing him away, before it's the over-the-shoulder backbreaker, the Canadian-style backbreaker, which makes sense because Sharp is Canadian after all. And Iron Mike going to score the win, 3 minutes and 4 seconds.
Oh, he's impressive in this match.
Let's see if he's impressive on his interview skills as well as we head off now. Gordon Solie standing by with Iron Mike.
And so it is all over for Jerry Mahoney, and let me have a word or two with Mr. Sharp if I can, because not many people use a backbreaker in that particular way, but you use it.
There's not very many people that got the strength I have, and I demonstrated in there, and I'll demonstrate it against anybody in the ring there. And I'm getting a little sick and tired about the way I'm being treated here in Georgia. I'm not getting the matches I deserve, the matches that I want. You know, I'm a #1 man. I'm a big, powerful man. I've got a terrific record. I'm a little bit tired of the people around here. We got all the titles and the glory and the money. And I want my chance to get in there and show you people out there, and show the promoters, and show everybody that I'm #1.
Well, I'm certainly not going to argue with him at this point in time, that's for sure. Until next week, then, at 6:05, Gordon Solie saying so long.
Not many people can use the backbreaker that way, says Gordon Solie, but then again, not many people have the strength of Iron Mike. He's the toughest, and he's the strongest. He's no cream puff, Jamie.
What do you think? I'm a cream puff or something?
That's right, no cream puff right there. He don't even eat cream puffs. That's why he's no cream puff.
And, of course, obviously that was a standby match. We're running short on time, so Gordon Solie says, I'm sorry, Mike, we're out of time.
Oh, okay.
As that concludes the end of second week of TV here. I was going to try to fit the Omni in, but with all the sound bites involved, man, we don't want to go too long, so I guess we're going to save the beginning of the next show. We're going to be discussing the results from the Omni, and then the following night, back-to-back major shows, as it's going to be Columbus, Ohio as well.
Damn you, Ray Russell. I was just getting pumped up to keep on going. I guess we'll have to continue for another time.
Yeah, well, I do apologize, Jamie, but we are running a little long. I don't want the show to go too long, and of course, all the sound bites just kind of push things a little further into the show, but I was hoping we would get the Omni out of the way, but I guess, what a great way to kick off the next show. Hayes and Andre taking on Gordy and Snuka. Tommy Rich defending that Georgia title against the Masked Superstar. Your new team of Iron Mike Sharp and Big John Studd going up against George Wells in Wrestling 2. Let's not forget Big Chris Cannon and Bruiser Brody. I mean, Kevin Von Erich on the card. Steve-O, Bruno Jr., French Angel taking on Ric Ferrera in the opener. So we got names from top to bottom.
What a cliffhanger to end on.
Well, I do apologize, guys, but I'm trying to be respectful of everyone's time out there. I, too, am totally pumped, super excited to get there. And, hey, just another teaser. The following day in Columbus, Andre and Bruiser Brody, one-on-one. Gordy and Snuka versus Michael Hayes and Tommy Rich. Masked Superstar defending his national title against George Wells. You might like this one. Kevin Von Erich going one-on-one with Iron Mike Sharp. So lots of fun stuff coming at the beginning of the next episode.
At least a bright spot. I mean, if the people don't really, our great audience out there, doesn't realize this is up against the New York Knicks and Philadelphia 76ers that I'm currently missing. However, the Sixers have come back, and I'm going to be able to, you got me so pumped up, I'm actually going to be able to see the end of a game for a change.
I love it. I'm your 5-hour energy for the night, Jammie Ward.
Yes, you are, Ray Russell.
Well, I can't take all the credit. We got to give the credit to Georgia Championship Wrestling.
I might even go find a late night ribeye place after the Sixers game.
Oh, don't tease me with that. I might have to do
either that or I'll go to Philadelphia and get an all-night cheesesteak place, and I'll send you pictures.
I love it. Just save them for tomorrow. I don't want to be doing anything stupid tonight. Trying to find myself a late night snack shack. But we're gonna close up shop here this week, Jamie. If you want to do any of your shout outs as we close out the show, please do so.
Well, first I'd like to start off by thanking everyone that listens to not only the Georgia 81 Regional Rasslin, but all of the WrestleCopia podcast network shows. Ray's really got something going on here, and I'm proud to be part of it, and I'm just so happy to be getting the comments that I have had coming through to us. Ray, best of luck. I hope everything continues well. As far as shout-outs, let me give one out to my boys at the Other Ship podcast, Drew Samuels, Michael Herrick, William Merriweather, and Chris Spiker. Those guys talk everything. I was a guest on their show that leads their preview show for the WWE Backlash pay-per-view. I'll be back again with them at the end of May. Not only do they talk wrestling, they talk food, they talk music, they talk every topic under the sun. Matter of fact, they just had a show where they created fantasy bands. They had 4 people on, and it was like a fantasy draft. and they would take
wow,
their favorite drummer.
I've not heard that one yet.
Yeah, draft a bassist, singer, everybody. I'm not a big music guy, but I was tuned in for a solid hour and a half of hearing names I've never heard before, and I was really into it. They had Kevin Curtis and Steve Raphael on the show.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
and you met Steve down in Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Super nice guy. Nice guy.
Yeah, we hung out quite a bit on Thursday and Friday, especially.
So I highly recommend that when you guys get to hear this, go back into the other ship archives, check them out. You won't be sorry.
Yeah.
It's a great show.
Yeah, check those guys out. They're fun time, and I got to meet Drew and Mike there at the GrappleCon as well. Really cool people and really fun show. So as Jamie said, check out the other ship. And I think that's going to do it here this week for us, Jamie. And we're going to wrap up everything, and hopefully we'll be back very soon. I know I got to do more Minfo here soon with Gene Jackson, and Roman's been texting me. He's watched his most recent UWF TV, so hopefully we'll get with Roman here and pump out another Bill Watts show as well right around the corner. But I appreciate you taking the time out during the playoffs, NBA playoffs, to get another show in here. And we'll be back soon with more of this Georgia goodness.
Well, Ray, if you need me, just call.
All right, guys, that'll do it here this week. But we shall return for more Georgia 81, Memphis 85, and UWF 86 very soon. I'm your host, Ray Russell. You can follow me on X at Rasslin Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Rasslin Grenade. And don't forget that $5 all access tier over at Patreon.com/WrestleCopia. And until next time, we'll be back soon with more Regional Rasslin, where we talk the territories.